We are live.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole Operations meeting to order. I would ask that you rise as you're able for the reading of the invocation. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us not forget those who served our community and who are no longer with us, so that we can continue to do the work that we must do in their memory. Prior to moving into the agenda, I believe the mayor has some remarks regarding D-Day.
Yeah, I'm hoping everybody is okay with this. I think we should, someone should speak on behalf of this council in respect to the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which is coming up on Thursday. So I have a statement here that I'll read. On June 6, 2024, we joined cities and counties around the world to commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day, a pivotal moment in history that marked the beginning of the end of World War II. On this day, we honor the bravery, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment of those who participated in the Normandy invasion, including the valiant men and women of our own community. Though the predecessors of the 56th Field Artillery Regiment were engaged in the fierce battles of Italy during this time, Brantford was not without its own heroes on D-Day. We remember William Reginald Pettit, a Brantford native who gave his life on June 6, 1944. A plaque at the Juno Beach Center in Normandy bears tribute to him, reminding us of his sacrifice and ensuring his memory lives on. Alongside, we also honor Donald Robert Bailey, Samuel John Hall, William John Bolster, Edson Lloyd Pease. Bailey, Hall, and Bolster served with the Queen's Own Rifles, while Pease was part of the 1st Hussars Regiment. Each of these men faced unimaginable dangers and showed extraordinary courage. Edison Lloyd Pease, for instance, lost his life when his tank was struck by an anti-tank gun. Our community was privileged to have veterans like Lloyd Bentley, who at 20 years old joined the Air Force and played a crucial role in the D-Day invasion. Bentley's memories of that day, dropping paratroopers and witnessing the vast invasion force, remind us of the scale and significance of the operation. His service continued through other battles such as Operation Market Garden, illustrating the enduring spirit of our local heroes. The legacy of these brave individuals is not confined to the past. It lives on through stories, commemorations, and the tangible symbols of their sacrifice, such as the plaques that the city has commissioned and implemented throughout the community. These plaques not only honor our fallen, but also educate future generations about the supreme sacrifice and cost of our freedom. As we reflect on the events of June 6, 1944, let us also remember those who, like the late Captain David Wellesley Clare and Cole Gregor, contributed in various capacities and carried with them the memories and impacts of that historic day. Their stories and sacrifices are woven into the fabric of our history, a testament to their courage and their resilience. On this solemn anniversary, we extend our deepest gratitude to all who served and continue to serve. Let us commit ourselves to preserving their memory and honoring their contributions to the peace and freedoms we enjoy today. We will remember them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the, clerk, can I confirm the roll has been taken?
The roll has been taken.
Thank you. Members of committee, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest for any items appearing on the agenda? Seeing none, I will ask at this time, members of the committee, which items you would like separated for discussion purposes. Following items will be automatically separated as there is a presentation and or delegation on the matter. 6.1.1, the alternative transportation review, and 6.1.5, the private tree bylaw update. Any other, Councillor Carpenter?
Yeah, 6.1.4, please.
Okay, any others? Councillor Mark?
Yeah, 6.1.6. Airport Board report.
Any other items for separation? Okay, Counselor Sullivan, I believe you have the motion to approve all items not separated for discussion purposes.
Yes, I do. Moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Counselor Secoli, that all items contained within the consideration consent 6.1 to 6.2, not separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
Madam Clerk, can you please read the titles of the items that are subject to the vote and then proceed with the vote?
Absolutely. The items subject to the vote are items 6.1.2, asset management plan, non-core assets. Item 6.1.3, council approval of the joint city-county HSP event program, and item 6.1.7, the minutes. Yours, so we just need Martin. Yep. And Celeste. So all items not separated carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Secoli, and Mayor Davis.
Thank you. We have one presentation and one delegation on the agenda this evening. Prior to hearing the delegations, I would like to remind those in the meeting of the following rules of decorum as set forth in the city's procedural bylaw. No person shall display any sign, banner, or placard in the meeting room other than materials that, in the opinion of the chair, are legitimate audiovisual aids necessary in connection with any presentation to be made to council. All persons present shall use polite and respectful language and shall refrain from the use of any language or the making of any gestures that are disrespectful or offensive. All persons addressing council shall speak only on the subject in debate and shall not speak on any other subject. No person shall applaud participants in debate or engage in any conversation or behavior that may disrupt the proceedings of the meeting. So as mentioned, we do have one delegation, Chuck Beach. Yeah, anywhere there. And if you push one of the start buttons, the red light should come on. So Mr. Beach has come forward to speak to item 6.1.5, the private tree bylaw update. You have 10 minutes inclusive of questions. Please proceed.
Chuck Beach, 7 Springfield Drive. Thank you for allowing me to appear tonight, and I'd like to make a few comments on Brantford's private property tree bylaw and the official plan envisioning our city in 2051. Page 19, forest resources. The city shall achieve a minimum of 40% tree canopy by 2051. Cool. Down late in the last sentence, it's in addition, the city will use the tree protection bylaw to protect trees on privately owned land from injury or destruction. That's in your official plan. Oops. So why is tree protection so important? Numerous reasons, but tonight I'm going to focus on the urban heat island effect. So what we know, and everybody, well, what we know is that cities are warmer than the countryside. We know that. And the reason, and what's interesting is, of course, is Brantford has been identified as a climate change hotspot. In fact, one of the 10 hottest cities in Canada. That's interesting. It comes from this study from the University of Waterloo. So why is Brantford in the top 10? Well, hardscaping, the way we build. And the way we built in the past, the way we are still building with rooftops and gigantic asphalt parking lots. And of course, every road is a bit of a heat island too. And of course, our geographic situation and also our lack of trees. This is a compilation from NASA and the Goddard Institute. And what it says is 22 of the 23 hottest years in recorded history occurred since the year 2002. And they're listed in the order of the hottest to the coolest. That's interesting. Things seem to be changing a bit. What do we know so far this year? Well, this is from May 24th. Mexico is about to experience its highest temperature ever recorded as the death toll climbs. From May 29th, temperatures soar to nearly 50 degrees C across India in an ongoing heat wave. Actually, I think some city hit 52 degrees, which I just find phenomenal. What are some jurisdictions doing? Well, this is from Miami-Dade. Plan to tackle extreme heat problem. I guess this county has the most days of extreme heat in the United States. And extreme heat occurrences are, I think, 3 consecutive days over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So what are they doing? They're giving away trees. More cities address shade deserts as extreme heat health triggers health issues. Tampa Bay. Neighborhoods with more trees and green space stay cooler. One too many. Sorry about that. The Associated Press from March 2024. Oregon plants trees to honor the victims of killer heat wave. 72 victims. This will cool us down when the summer is hot. This is just from a few days ago. Forecaster warns BC of hot summers as province offers more free air conditioners to approximately 19,000 people. And during the heat dome of 2021, 600 people died. How does this is an old? I took this from an old city document of our latest tree canopy assessment. I believe some of the targets have changed, but we're at 21.5, and not our goal, according to the official plan, is 40%. So this is not good, but we continue to build the way we build. Postage stamp size building lots, no room for large trees. So Brantford's urban tree canopy, according to this LIDAR study, the tree canopy is 21.5%. And that was equivalent to 674,875 trees in the existing 5 wards. Now, I've made a lot of assumptions here and taken a lot of liberties. But if you were, as of 2022, we need to plant another 581,000 trees in the next 29 years to get to 40%. Now it's making a lot of assumptions, trees dying and all that. However, it looks like we have our work come out, our work for it. You know, we have a lot of work to do. We need to plant roughly 20,000 trees a year. I think we should actually try and beat 2051 and do more. So I'm not very good with this thing. A conundrum, the city only owns 30% of the land within the city boundaries. The other 70% is on private property. either citizens, commercial, institutional, or industrial. Recommendations. Amend the official plan to eliminate the 40% tree canopy goal. I don't think anybody buys that anymore. I looked at the report that staff put together. Nobody, doesn't seem to be, I don't know. Just so change the official plan. Amend the official plan to remove the statement on the private tree bylaw that says that we're going to protect trees on private property. Because I don't think you're going to, by and large, unless it's the existing woodlots or natural areas. So take that out. But I would ask you to develop a plan with a new goal that provides resources to accelerate tree planting. And where practical, accelerate planting more trees on city property. So you have boulevard trees. When they die, they can be replaced. You phone the city. Well, apparently that's optional. Well, this is your property. Why would you not plant a tree on it? This is your property. Don't make it optional. Where practical, accelerate planting more trees on city property. In the last 3 years, I'm happy to say the Brant Tree Coalition has planted, or in the last 6 months, the Brant Tree Coalition has planted 3 city parks. We're not encumbering baseball diamonds. We're not encumbering soccer fields. We're adding nature to city parks. We plan to do another one this fall, maybe 2. Hold more public tree planting events. Right now, we just completed the 11th annual Brantford Community Tree Plant. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Hutchings, for attending. We planted 1,000 trees at Prior Park. Develop a robust plan to engage commercial industrial sector. They own a lot of land. They're cutting a lot of grass. Let's help them save some money, reduce emissions. You could do that through taxation. I don't, you just could do it. We need that plan. We need to engage that sector if we're ever going to meet a higher tree canopy. And in my opinion, this is doable if the resources are allocated. The health of future generations is important. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Okay, we've got time for maybe one question for Mr. Beach.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Carpenter has a question for you.
Thanks for coming, Chuck. You'd like us to certainly plant trees on all the boulevards where the city owns the property now, where they're vacant. And because as I go around, I see lots of opportunity for tree planting on city property where it doesn't exist now.
Yeah. Mr. Carpenter, I imagine if the city had the budget, they'd plant them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beach, and we will be dealing with this item shortly. I would now ask that our Commissioner of Public Works, Mr. Hans, comes forward to present regarding 6.1.2 alternative transportation review.
Get the presentation up. Good evening, Chair Hunt, Mayor Davis, members of council, Inderjeet Hans, Commissioner of Public Works. So today I'm here to provide you with a presentation on the Alternative Transportation Strategic Review. This review was undertaken by staff after council's direction in June 2021 to pause Oak Park Road Extension, EA, in order to study alternatives and solutions to alleviate traffic on local roads. In April of this year, staff presented the short-term traffic solution. You remember that had some solutions for Brent Ave, ICOM, Colburn, as well as on the east side of the downtown, the Clarence, Dalhousie, and Colburn intersections. However, that report did indicate that even though these short-term solutions will solve short-term traffic problems an overall network solution is required for moving growth that's expected in the southwest to the northwest. So this slide just summarizes some of the background studies that have been undertaken. It originated in 1981 for the Brantford Corridor study that laid out this corridor for the city on the west side. Since then, this corridor was also mentioned in the 2014 Transportation Master Plan, the 2019 Oak Park Road feasibility study, the 2020 Transportation Master Plan, where we also looked at the do nothing, which means this corridor is not in play, as well as the 2021 Oak Park Road Extension EA, which I mentioned was placed on hold in 2021. So I just wanted to explain here the difference between past principles versus this alternative transportation study review. And the biggest difference here is that the past focused just within that corridor of Oak Park Road. The alternative transportation study focused broadly, no jurisdictional boundaries, cost wasn't an issue. Basically looking at any network or missing links in the network that we can connect and evaluating those. So that is the biggest difference between what we have done in the past and what we are doing now. And that was what was directed by council for staff to look into. The purpose really was to ensure that when reporting back today, council has the confidence that all the suggested alternative options that were provided through our individual ward council meetings have been studied and evaluated. On this slide, you can see that there's really two growth areas that we're focusing on, and is the basically the problem statement that we're trying to solve, which is Southwest Brantford growth, which is expected to grow from in terms of just southwest area, just over or near 17,000 people to 30,500 people. And the overall city, we're looking at just over 100,000 to 165,000. And then also in the employment area of West Brent, Northwest Industrial Park, we're forecasted to grow from 3,000 jobs to approximately 18,500 jobs. So this is really our problem statement that we're trying to solve, is how to move north-south in the city. So in this slide, we focus really on the significant growth in population and employment and how that has a significant impact on the trips and the patterns. It's important to note here that there are multiple upgrade requirements to the network in general, the city, which was detailed in the TMP. So focusing right now on the north-south, we're basically hitting almost 2/3 of the traffic issue that's expected. That doesn't mean that we're not going to focus on the east-west connections, which is the other third. But really right now, what this study is meant to show, move forward with, is that focus on the north-south connection. And also I just want to remind council that some of the work in the east-west has also been pushed forward, which is the VMP-EA. So this doesn't preclude the fact that we're looking to solve or implement the transportation master plan findings. But at this point, the real need of the city and the urgency is the north-south connections. Oops, what happened? There we go. So in this chart here, we did an initial review of network gaps and revealed a list of potential missing links in the network to address connectivity and transportation. City council members were consulted, and through that consultation, a range of alternatives was long listed, and 14 alternatives were confirmed to address that problem statement that I had mentioned. These alternatives are conceptual corridors used for just evaluating the link. It's not necessarily a specific alignment. So I just want to be clear about that as well. I'd also like to note that the alternatives that were amended in the joint city-county shared services committee were also included in the evaluation, noting that the West Arterial covers the Force Road, but others are specifically mentioned in here. So the next slide, basically this slide just color coordinates some of those alternatives. It's easier for us to evaluate based on this. The green is your west corridor. The central corridor is blue and the east corridor is yellow. So each corridor has a different role or function and serves the problem statement in varying degrees. And we'll get to that just in a little bit. In order to evaluate the long list of alternatives, staff looked at 5 criteria factor groups: transportation, natural environment, cultural environment, social economic environment, and cost. And just to remind you here that really cost and jurisdictional boundaries were not considered because we're trying to just evaluate any and all alternatives that we had to satisfy council's direction. Sorry. Okay. Right. Okay. So you're not meant to read that on the slide. It's included in your package. But this just goes to show the amount of valuation that was conducted to basically prioritize our ranking of the 14 alternatives. In this bar chart here, after evaluating the alternatives, and the criteria group was weighted. And what we weighted the most was transportation at 40%, natural environment at 25%, cultural environment at 15%, social economic at 15%, and cost at 5%. So these weighted criteria were applied to all alternatives. And you can see on the left side of the dotted line are those north-south routes that primarily address that problem statement. And on the east side are the east-west travel alternatives that we really find that are not solving that problem statement. And from there, you can see that the Rest Acres Roads alternative, as well as the West Arterial, are the 2 that rank the highest. And for east-west travel, we had County Road 18 that ranked the highest from those alternatives being weighted. This slide here just shows the 2 alternatives that we are shortlisting. Alternative A5, West Arterial, which was ranked the highest, and alternative A1, which is Rest Acres and Colborne, which was identified as the 2nd highest ranking. The alternatives are the most effective in addressing that north-south corridor demands. And while C4 County Road 18 was highly ranked, it was less effective in addressing the problem statement, which is moving from southwest to northwest. Other alternatives that scored well but did not meet the criteria threshold of 60 out of 100 was alternative A2 Shellards, County Road 12 and Rest Acres, and A6 County Road 18, including alternative 2, which I mentioned earlier, which is Shellard County Road 12 and Rest Acres. These alternatives did not score well as the top performance in the transportation criteria because they are out of the way. And although travelers are utilizing these routes today, the significant growth that we're expecting will cause major issues in these areas in the future. So just to test our work.
So you're just past 10, Indy. I don't know how many more slides you've got to wrap up.
I have 3 slides left.
Okay, so we've got a motion from, moved by Counselor Sullivan, seconded by Counselor Secoli, to allow 2 minutes. 2 minutes to wrap up. Is that enough time, Indy?
Yes, thank you, Council.
Okay, thank you.
So to test our work, we basically had, sorry. It's got to be a vote.
Sorry, newbie up here. Okay, now we need to vote on that motion.
All those in favor of allowing the presentation to continue? Thank you. That carries.
Thank you,
All right,
Council.
please proceed. Thank you.
So to test our work, we weighted different factors with different weights. And in all scenarios, you can see that West Arterial 4 out of 6 times rose to the top. And the other 2 that I've spoken about also were at the top of the list. So the short list alternatives are the West Arterial, which was technically preferred for the north-south connection, and Rest Acres to Colborne as the second option. And the preferred alternative here is, it shows this alignment for West Alternative in the corridor that was previously studied, which is the Oak Park Road, but I just want to be clear about what West Arterial is. It's basically any road that's between the highway, or sorry, the airport and the existing Oak Park Road study. So we looked at the kind of the stepped approach around the airport. We looked at possibly going up Force Road, and also the corridor that we're in right now. So with all those studied, when we get into the Oak Park Road or the new corridor alignment, and staff are asking to reinitiate that project, phase 1 and 2 of the project that we had already completed will be reopened so that we can further evaluate those options at Force Road as well as within the corridor of the previously Oak Park Road. So with that, staff are here to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, so thanks, Indy. And we will deal with questions when we, oh. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I would move we extend by another 10 minutes so we can all ask whatever questions we have, up to 10 minutes, so we can all ask whatever questions we have.
Okay, seconder. Comment.
Madam Chair, thank you. I would remind members of committee that every member has 2 speaking opportunities, during which questions as well as speaking to the item before us are permissible on it. I don't know that adding 10 more minutes on here serves any additional benefit to committee or the community.
Okay, so the mayor has made a motion seeking a seconder. Okay, I see Councillor Samuel has seconded that. So
Discussion?
discussion on the request to extend for another 10 minutes. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, this would be, the problem with what Councilor McCurry has said is that an issue like this where there's, I'm sure, a number of questions and some pretty good debate that we need to have, that if your speaking opportunity is taken up with the time of asking questions, on something like this, you may be left with no time to be able to comment and submit your position. So, and I don't see what the problem is. We'll make it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just, and also I think it would help all of us as we hear the questions being asked, whatever members have being asked kind of in a chronological fashion all at once.
Okay, any other discussion on the request for another 10 minutes to ask questions on this item? Councillor Caputo.
Yeah, I think we can probably address this as we bring it up for debate, where we can actually have our comments made as well as our questions asked, where we have numerous opportunity as well as 4 minutes, and then I can go back in the queue 5 or 6 times, I'm sure. So
Okay,
I won't
So-
be supporting the actual motion. We'll just wait till we get to the debate.
all right, so we are going to take the vote on the extension of 10 minutes to ask questions on this item now.
Thank you. That lost on a recorded vote of 7-4. All those voting in favor are Councillors Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Carpenter, Celeste, Sequoia, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillors Sullivan, Caputo, Martin, and McCreary.
Point of order, you mean it passed 7.
Sorry, yes. So you need, yes, it passed 7-4.
Thank you for that, because I too was confused. Okay, so we're now entertaining questions for another 10 minutes. And Mr. Mayor, you are,
Yeah, I've got a question in particular. It has to do with what I think the emphasis is in the report, which is north-south issue. Can you give us an indication what you think the state of the Lorne Bridge, Brant Ave, and Hardy Road will be? Let's pick a date, say 12 years out, when you've got potentially 20,000 jobs around those lands around the old schoolhouse on Paris Road, the northwest, and 30,000 people living in Shellard Lane. What's going to look like then in comparison to what it is now, which is pretty bad right now?
Through the chair to Mayor Davis. So if we look approximately 10 to 12 years out, my estimation is you're probably going to get maybe 2.5 times worth of traffic. So if we're looking at times on a bad day, 15-minute wait, you can probably expect a 25 to 30-minute wait if there's no improvements happening. Now, with that, we'll see residents probably use the cut-through streets. So those are residential roads that are parallel to Brent Ave. So we'll start seeing that issue happening as well.
So you'll see people using Grand River Ave, William Street, that sort of thing, but they all got to come back onto Paris Road, Brant Ave. So you said 2.5 times. It would take 25 to 30 minutes to travel up Brant Ave. I assume that's at rush hour.
Through the chair, that's an estimation, but yes, like there's the current states that we're in, we're showing already a level F, a very bad state in that intersection. That's why we're looking for these short-term improvements to get that from the level that it's at to a more acceptable level of B or C,
Right.
which we presented. So if nothing is done for the next 10, that only solves short-term. If we look at 10 or 12 years out, you're going to just get back into that as the population starts to grow in the southwest.
And what does the traffic look like on the Lorne Bridge and Hardy Road? It's the same timeline.
Yeah, through the chairs, similar. We can't widen Lorne Bridge. So we're going to be seeing similar weights along there. It's a pinch point. The bridge is a pinch point, and the properties along Brent Ave are a pinch point. We can't expand on those corridors.
Last question. When do you expect we'll begin to see, from what's already a bad situation on Brant Ave and the Lorne Bridge, when do you expect we'll see that begin to very substantially deteriorate? Is that when we start seeing the build out in the properties around the old schoolhouse?
So through the chair, I would say it's already there. The initial transportation master plan had Oak Park Road built by now. And so that's why you're seeing some of these issues on Brant Ave already. So I would say if we're at a level F, we've already failed essentially that corridor, and there's no widening that we can do to help relieve the situation. So I would say we're already there.
My last question is, how many decades has the council of this city been kicking this decision down the road?
Through the chairs, the initial corridor study was done in 1981. So we're looking at approximately 40 odd years that this has been on in front of councils, various councils.
Councillor Samwell.
Thank you, and through you to staff. The question I have is probably what everybody's wanting to know at home. Is this going to affect the cemetery at all? Is it going to go through it or impact it in any way if we choose this proposed tonight?
Through the chair, Councillor Samwell, the current utility corridor that is running adjacent to the Oak Hill Cemetery has been there since 1980. And that corridor actually currently has sanitary and water main in it. So the reason that that corridor is being selected for the road is because you can build over top of the infrastructure without having to move it. Now, the corridor that we're speaking of is 100 to 140 meters wide. A typical road is 40. So you have about 60 to 100 meters within that corridor to move the road. And so right now, there's nothing on that property in terms of the cemetery. It is open land. There is a cemetery master plan that's going to be presented to council in August. And that plan also has potentially a plan for the west side of this corridor for the cemetery to expand, but also is considering if we need those lands at all, if we expand other cemeteries around the city. So if we're looking at, for example, West Street and Mount Hope, you're looking at about a 9 to 10 meter separation between the road and the cemetery. Here, potentially, if we're carrying forward with our EA study, and phase 3, where we had stopped, would have looked at the swing of that road. So it could go towards Jennings and you have over 60 meters of space. And what we also wanted to look at is for those that chose Oak Hill Cemetery for a serene, quiet area, is to enhance the engineering, the berming, the sound wall, the planting, the landscape in that stretch, so that basically the road, you don't see the road if you're at or hear the vehicles if you're at the cemetery. So this was all part of the plan. But it's important to note that width of corridor that we have is very, very wide. And the road can fit anywhere in there, but also that we're going to study, can we mirror or parallel with Jennings or use Jennings, or can we go into Forest? We're going to review all of that to see if that will also be a preferred alternative with the constraints that may be there.
So just to clarify, so what you're saying is that you're going to be ensuring that you're taking good care of the cemetery and trying to stay away from it as much as possible and protect it, correct?
To the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Caputo.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question, I guess. The mayor actually asked the majority of the questions I was going to actually speak into or go through, because certainly Brand Ave is turning into the Gardner Expressway right now and probably going to get worse in terms of traffic. Quick question on this West Trail. How much of the actual distance is going to be needed to go through, like from the size of the road, how much actually goes through the county when we, go to send a bill?
Through the chair, so if I understand, if the existing utility corridor is utilized, that's completely in the city's boundary. If we're looking at options to link with Jennings, then you're looking at approximately 6 to 7, maybe 800 meters worth of roadway before we have to swing back in to make that connection with the existing Oak Park Road on the north side of the river.
That's good, thanks.
Councillor Schloss, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Indy. Indy, can you clarify, what are we approving? Studying the area around Oak Hill Cemetery. Is that correct? You're not looking at any other alternatives if the resolution before us tonight is passed?
Through the chair to Councillor Celeste. So today we're looking for approval to reinitiate the Oak Park Road EA. And then as part of that EA, we're going to, which concluded at phase 2, which is looking at just overall alternatives within that corridor. We're going to reopen phase 1 and 2 to look at corridors outside of the existing corridor. So as I mentioned in the second slide today, there's a difference between what we did before and what we're doing now. And what we're doing now would be looking at corridors within the city land or county lands, as well as looking at the corridor that's existing right now adjacent to Jennings and the Oak Hill Cemetery.
Do we have legal authority to expropriate land in another jurisdiction?
Yeah. Through the chair, I don't believe we do, Councillor.
So we would need the blessing of the county to start shifting outside of the corridor that we currently own. Would that be, is that fair?
Through the chair, that's correct, or purchase property.
Okay. So we can purchase property from another jurisdiction or from individuals in another jurisdiction and build a roadway on it? We can do that?
So just looking at our legal stuff. Want me to answer? Okay. We'd have to get back to you on that, Counselor.
Okay. I guess my concern, Andy, and the reason I'm asking these is, through the joint use committee that we formed that's been dealing with the county, there's not a lot of appetite, at least from senior leadership in the county, to look at all towards how we can mutually benefit with infrastructure as far as moving people. So if we're looking outside of what we already own, I think we're
Counselor
kind of going.
Sluss, I'm gonna cut you off there. We're over our 10 minutes. I
Okay.
apologize to those in the queue that did not get to ask their questions, but they will certainly be able to address this this item shortly.
Okay, thank you.
So moving on, Counselor Sluss, I believe you have the motion to place all separated items for consideration and consent not previously voted on the floor.
So moved, Madam Chair, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Caputo.
Okay, we'll call the first item that we are going to call is item 6.1.5, the private tree bylaw update, as there was a delegation on this item. So looking for speakers on 6.1.5. Yeah, got those two. Anyone else who over here is waving? Okay, Councillor Samwell, you're first in line this time.
Thank you. Through you to staff, I just had a question about this. I would just like to know what impact this will have on the everyday homeowner if we go forward with option 2 as recommended.
Gagan Batra, Manager of Business Support and Sustainability, through Chair Hunt to Councillor Samwell. Good question. The impact to the regular average property owner is going to be minimal. We've scaled this bylaw back so that the majority of the impact is going to be on folks whose backyards, for example, back onto a woodlot, which is not very commonly seen. There's very few calls we get from the average resident with regard to the private tree bylaw as it is now. And we're expecting the same with this increase, and it's going to impact only those properties where it's on one of those protected areas as defined in the council report, such as woodlots or core protected areas defined by the official plan. So short answer, it's not going to have very much impact. It's going to be minimal on the average resident.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, your turn.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, through you to staff. So just so we understand and the viewer understands what the issue is here. So if I understand correctly, what we're going to have is a bylaw that doesn't prohibit someone from cutting down a tree. Generally.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. What we're going to focus on are woodlots. And woodlots are obviously a woodlot with a bunch of trees on a piece of property, not just individual trees. And we're going to be focusing on woodlots that are greater than 1 acre. That's where I find it confusing, what the focus is going to be.
Yes.
And what's the difference between what we're doing now?
Yes, woodlots 1 acre and greater. There's not very much difference right now. It's just the way we defined it. So we've when we present the bylaw at City Council, there will be updated woodlot mapping. The old map that we have is quite old and a lot of the area in the city has changed. So the 1 acre woodlot hasn't changed. It's just that we are defining and including the areas that are already protected by the official plan. And we are increasing the ratios for replanting to 3 to 1 minimum. for every tree that's removed, increasing depending on the size of the tree to be consistent with the public tree bylaw. And we're being a little bit more clear in terms of the enforcement to empower our bylaw staff in case they ever need to issue stop work orders, for example, if anybody is in contravention and found to be clear cutting on a woodlot, for example.
So if we wanted to do more than that, we'd look at option 3, which would expand it to include properties that are woodlots that are less than 1 acre. If I got that straight.
It would be all properties, regardless of whether or not it's on a woodlot, depending on their size. So with option 3, what we found is that some cities will have the private tree bylaw impacting all private properties, but have it on properties that are above a certain size. So even if your property is 1 acre but doesn't have a woodlot on it, it's just a couple of trees on your property, you still would have to, you still would be held under that bylaw. That would be option 3.
Okay. And so the cost of doing that, you predict would be about $500,000 a year?
Yes, with other cities with whom we've spoken, and of course, this is an estimate based on what we've heard across the board in some other municipalities, they did predict that it would require additional forestry resources just because it is all private properties, that they're expecting that there would be an increase in need for bylaw and forestry to enforce the bylaw to make sure we're doing it appropriately.
Okay. How many woodlots do we have that are, you have a record of that? How many woodlots we have that are less than 1 acre and how many that are more than 1 acre?
I have the number above 1 acre. I think it's approximately 70, but I can get the exact number and report back if council wishes.
Yeah, I appreciate it. In particular, if you go below 1 acre, option 3, how many beyond 70 are there?
I can report back with that information.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you. When we talk about increasing the city's trees on city property, have you looked at how many spots are available now?
Through the chair, yes, I believe our forestry staff, I'll call upon. Okay. We do have locations for planting that our forestry staff maintains, yes, and we work with our partners from Brant Tree Coalition through Brant Waterways Foundation to determine those locations and partner with them on their annual tree plantings.
And I noticed on Wayne Gretzky Parkway, a number of trees have been hit by accidents and been over 2 years, still haven't replaced the trees that were taken down by a car.
Point of order, Madam Chair. This discussion's irrelevant. This is a proposal in respect to private tree bylaws, so I don't understand.
Yeah, the recommendation talks about the city doing more on their property as well.
Right.
It's part of the report. Oh. Madam Chair, can I continue?
I find in favor of Councillor Carpenter. So yes, you can continue. You have 2 minutes to wrap up.
Thank you.
I appeal that decision on the basis that this report deals, as I understand, entirely with the private tree bylaw. So it's irrelevant. Either we have rules here or we don't.
Madam Chair, may I express a point of order? I will hark back to a period of time not long ago when the mayor used the word, he ruled that the word appeal meant challenge to the chair. So the mayor has just challenged to the chair, which the clerk may confirm means we go to the vote. Yes to support the chair, no to support the councillor, if I recall.
Through the chair, the vote will be to sustain the ruling of the chair, and you need a seconder.
Seeking a seconder.
Councillor Sakoli has seconded.
Could I be explained to me what the yes and the no represent?
Through the chair, so the vote is to sustain the decision of the chair, and the chair voted that Councillor Carpenter was in order to speak to the trees. Okay, so the ruling carried on a recorded vote of 6-5. All those voting in favor are Councilors Sullivan, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter. Those opposed, Councilor Sless, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Thank you. Is my 2 minutes gone now?
No. So Counselor Carpenter, you are back on with 2 minutes left in your speaking.
Thank you. I just,
And
thank you
thanks-
for that.
thanks
So I just want to know,
for your
we're
support.
talking about different options to increase the tree canopy with the tree bylaw. So the tree bylaw did talk about private property. It also talked about city property. So is our intention to increase the trees on city property as part of this going forward?
Through the chair, we do that regardless through our tree canopy expansion projects. There's an approved capital project and funding we get every year. And that's the funding that forestry uses to do a lot of their work and undertake a lot of those projects. And the funding that we receive for tree replacement through the public bylaw typically goes back to forestry to commit to this replanting in different areas of the city, including parks.
Okay, one final one on the same, talk about increasing trees canopy, which is in the conclusion. Are we looking at changing our building standards? In other words, wider boulevards so trees could be sustained over a longer period of time and instead of being ripped down because of sidewalk, those kinds of issues?
I'm just going to defer that to our manager of development engineering here, who's walking up.
Through the chair, Gary Peaver, Manager of Development Engineering. Through the chair to you, Councillor Carpenter. One of the items of looking at space to plant trees would be our zoning bylaw update. And as many of councillors are aware, that is coming to council here after the summer break. And that would be one of the items to look at the space on private property and where trees could be planted. As for the road allowance width and boulevards, yearly we are reviewing our boulevards and our road cross sections through engineering services. That is something we do take into account. But ultimately that zoning bylaw update has a bigger impact on how many trees we can plant on the city's boulevard.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peaver, very much. And thank you, Madam Chair, and thank members of council for allowing me to speak.
Counselor McCreary.
Chair, thank you. Thanks for this, Goggin. I've asked this question before and I can't remember if you provided me an answer. If you did, I apologize. But we're talking about the percentage tree cover being in the 20s currently, and we want to increase that to some larger number later. Do we know how much space actually is available and suitable to plant a tree in the city of Brantford, being the net between the gross area of the city of Brantford and subtracting things like Gretzky Center, the parking lot down the street, playing fields, and agricultural land? What do we then get as a number if you've netted those out?
Through the chair to Councilor McCreary, that we did an analysis on this last year based on the LiDAR study that we had done. And I don't have the exact numbers in terms of space available, but we did look at how much we can increase our tree canopy by. For the rest of the analysis, I can provide that to council, but approximately based on the available land, we could increase our canopy just on public allowance by about 26% only. So there's not a great deal of canopy coverage we can achieve based on planting on just public property.
Okay, so we have 26% available. We have 21% cover now. So if you subtract those two numbers, we're doing pretty well.
So, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Not verbatim. So if we only have 26% of the total landmass of the city of Brantford on which you possibly could plant a tree, and we've already planted on 21%, that leaves 5%. So I would extrapolate that to be like a gold star. Would you agree?
Through the chair, given that we only have a certain amount of land we can plant, I would say we're closing in on how much we can achieve. So yes, that's right.
Okay. Now, could you remind me how this came to land on our desks? Was this a council-driven initiative?
Through the chair, there are a couple of documents indicated in the report's corporate policy context, including the the official plan, the corporate climate change and community
Okay.
climate change action plan. So there are a couple of documents that spoke to investigating this. We
So
did the,
So the OP that's recent, that's not one you had to dust off,
no,
right? Okay. When we talk about woodlots, the area that we annexed from the county of Brant is or was largely agricultural. Are we applying these woodlot rules to agricultural lands?
Gary, I'm gonna defer that to Gary.
Through the chair, to you, Councillor McCreary, we are applying this bylaw to various agricultural areas, but they're really going to be attained to where the core natural area is. So thinking of north of Powerline Road, there's the Jones Creek area. So while the farmers have quite a bit of area that they're farming, the core natural area next to Jones Creek is the area that would be protected. We also are including some of the work the county did on some of their woodlots and including them within this bylaw.
Okay. So someone who wants to create an extra half acre out of what's currently scrubland won't be penalized by having to provide additional trees somewhere else in the municipality then?
Through the chair, as long as that scrub area was not within the core natural area as set out in the official plan.
So those are like the protected areas along water courses. Is that what you mean?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, thank you very much for that, folks.
Councillor Sluss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question was posed to me by a resident, the 1 acre woodlot. If the 1 acre is made up of two different ownerships, how does that play out in real life? Is that 2 half-acre woodlots?
Through the chair, the definition of the woodlot that we're using is just the size of the woodlot itself. So the property and the ownership and those boundaries are irrelevant in this. So say property owner A has a tree that they want to cut down, that's part of that woodlot. They would be the one that do the replacement ratio because it's on their property.
So they wouldn't be allowed to do that then because it's a woodlot. Is it over an acre, even though their woodlot is only a half acre?
The total area of the woodlot is still 1 acre. It's just that their property falls on a piece of that 1 acre, so they would still be subject to the protections in this bylaw because the definition still applies of that 1 acre protected area.
Okay. When you're talking about the expansion lands and trees coming down for development's sake, I'm thinking of Gulf Road, and there's an awful lot of forest on Gulf Road, and it's proposed to be developed in that area. So how does that work? Can they clear cut that to develop things, or are they subject to this bylaw?
I'm going to defer to our manager of development engineering to speak to the development process.
Through the chair, to you, Councillor Sluss, there is a particular woodlot on Gulf Road. It would be included in this bylaw. However, the bylaw in itself is not preventing removal of trees as much as setting out a replacement ratio or having the city have a say in what is that replacement. Ultimately, it is trying to protect that woodlot prior to that situation happening. So they will be able to remove trees within that woodlot as long as it's during the Planning Act applications and they have approval to do so.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Appreciate that clarity. And finally, there's been a lot of talk about the city planting more trees on city property to get to where we need to get to, and all the reasons why that hasn't happened. In my opinion, it's budget driven. If we don't approve the funds to buy the trees to have them planted and have the staff that can do that, we'll come up woefully short. So it's not a case of can we or can't we. We certainly can, but it's all pending on finance and resource as far as human resource. So I think we have to look in the mirror. If the city isn't doing what it should be doing, it's because we have not been funding it properly or we've not been employing it properly to have the work done. And it's usually both things, I think, that are lacking. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I have Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to areas. We had this conversation just before we started here, and Councillor Sloss just touched on it. So when you look at that area that we're looking at Balmoral, which eventually is going to be, they're going to have to take some trees down to get the roads access and places in. Have we decided what the replacement value or what the replacement number is on what's there? And with that, can we have a mandate that every city property for houses built there have developers put the trees in for us?
Through the chair to you, Councillor Caputo, the replacement ratio is being proposed in this private tree bylaw. Now, through that ratio, we will work with the developer to understand exactly how many trees, the size, and come to a conclusion in front of council and state how many trees are going to be replaced and how many are going to be removed. So ultimately, when the time comes, we'll have essentially a tree planting plan in place, or we'll have the developer put one in and we'll set the number that we would want them to replace that with. So if they are proposing to remove 100 trees, we could set that during their plan of subdivision, say we would like 300 back. So we still have that ability, but we want to use this tool to have a guidance as well. So if they're larger trees, we would get more trees out of it replaced. If they're smaller, less trees. To your second question there, when a subdivision goes in, the developers are responsible for planting those trees in the first place. We usually provide a minimum of a 2-year warranty review on those street trees. And we also are encouraging through some of the developments to have trees planted on private property for the new homeowners. That's something that is new, that hasn't really developed in some of the current developments, but some of the developments were being built today. We've offered that to the developers, and they're offering that to their future homeowners as well, that they'll plant a tree in a backyard, and that would help count towards the number of replacement trees.
So I guess my other question is, because Councilor McCurry brought it up when you got to boundary lines, do we know or have any idea what is going to be done by developers to help us meet our target of 2051 at 40%? Like, do we believe that we're going to have a 15% increase just coming from development alone?
Through the chair to you, Councillor Caputo, not at this time. Through the block plan processes, we have been looking at that more at a higher level. Now, we currently only have one block plan that's been approved to date in the Tatula area, and it set aside compensation areas. So when trees are removed, there's actually going to be compensation areas where the developer is going to plant trees for that replacement. And many of the other areas, we have not got to that far of detail yet.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I'm thinking of what Councillor Sloss mentioned earlier, Golf Road, Hardy Road, where the Abbott Road Golf Course overlooks that area, and you just see a strong canopy of trees. And we have significant developments going in along there. Not only are they protected areas, ANSIs, but there is also what we've designated as core natural areas. How does this change a core natural area that's in a developer's possession?
Through the chair, this bylaw doesn't necessarily change anything from the core natural area. The developer would still have to go through an official plan amendment to revise the core natural area. So essentially, this bylaw in turn is trying to protect the trees within that core natural area until such time that the official plan amendment comes in front of council and further Planning Act applications.
Okay, so if they've already went and asked for that official plan amendment, they won't be affected by this, or they will be if it still happens in the future if this is passed for a replacement.
Through the chair, that'd be correct. And to clarify, as official plan amendments come in, this bylaw is referencing, the wording's referencing the official plan core natural area. So the bylaw will evolve as the core natural area evolves through the official plan amendments.
All right, and I mean, what hit social media not too long ago was in West Brant, Kennedy Farm. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but a whole bunch of trees and a lot of anger about what happened there. How would this affect a situation such as that, so that the public could understand whether the trees may still be cut down? What would be the outcome? What are the potential outcomes if this bylaw were passed?
Through the chair, if this bylaw was passed, it would hold the developer more accountable for the removal of trees if they do it too premature. Now, that particular situation, that area will be actually in front of planning committee this month. And a replacement ratio of trees will be as a condition of approval that that developer will have to face. So the public will see that in action this month for that
Okay.
particular property.
Thank you very much.
Okay, before we go to second time speakers, I wanted to see if we had any more for, so Counselor Martin, Counselor Sokoli, I had you on the list and took you off. You're good. Okay, so Counselor Martin, first
Thank-
time.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I thought you saw me earlier, but I guess you didn't. The, with the boundary lands, do we know of any tree farms that came into the city?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of any tree farms that have come into through the boundary.
Okay. Because sometimes trees are planted to be harvested at some point, just like a farmer plants corn to harvest it in the fall.
Through the chair, we actually have a particular note in the bylaw for that particular reason. So if it's planted for harvesting reasons, they would be exempt.
Okay. And the problem I have with the tree law in total is by mandating a replacement of 3-to-1, it discourages somebody from planting trees on land that might have development potential in the future. And because then whoever does develop it's going to be faced with a huge bill of planting trees. I'd rather see a lower ratio to encourage planting on land that has development potential. So I won't be supporting this the way it is. Thank you.
Okay, any more first time speakers?
Point of order, Madam Chairman. I don't appreciate someone laughing after my comments. I'd like an apology, Council Carpenter.
I wasn't laughing at you or your comments.
And I apologize because I was looking your way and did not see what you're speaking about. Moving on to second time speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I certainly hope nobody laughs at me or smirks at me, but what I'd like to do is a quick question to staff. So the resolution, as I read it, is we repeal and replace bylaw 38/2023 with, but doesn't really say what we're replacing it with. Is it so the assumption is this bylaw is based on option 2.
To the chair, yes, that's right. To
Okay.
you, Mayor Davis. We're still developing it, so we're going to finalize it once this is approved tonight.
So if we really wanted to do something significant and meaningful to protect the tree canopy and we want to go with option 3, what do we do with this direction, with this resolution?
I'll maybe defer to the clerk to speak to that, but I believe we would just have to do an amendment to the recommendation to replace option 2 as being the one that we're selecting with option 3.
Okay.
But I'll let Emma confirm.
Through the chair, that's correct. We would have to strike clause B and we would replace it to go forward with option 3.
Okay, I'll move that. I'll move an amendment that we replace somehow, amend B so that it's based on option 3, seeking a seconder to get this on the floor for discussion, if there is one. Councillor Van Tilburg, thank you. So if I might just say in support, the report that we have tells us that option 3 will, with option 2, the coverage, it applies to only 644 private properties, protecting only 23% of the total tree canopy. If you go with option 3, it'll increase it about 2,500 properties, protecting 30.9% of the total tree canopy. We know that our ratio in comparison to the municipalities in terms of total tree canopy is on the low side of average. I think it behooves us with what our presenter told us, Mr. Birch, that we expand the scope of this bylaw. It'll still exempt properties of an acre or less. So most homeowners, this would not impact on them and their right to manage their properties as they see fit. It really only apply to larger properties. So that's the amendments on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, any speakers to the,
Madam Chair, I'd like to speak to a point of order. It's the same point of order I raise every time the mayor does this. And that is that I don't believe that the strike and replace really is an appropriate method to change the course of what's before this committee. And I think it's more properly done if the mayor would like to suggest that that item be separated, and if defeated, then he could introduce the replacement resolution. I think, Madam Chair, that's the proper and appropriate way to allow this committee to deal with what's before us and not to have something else brought out at the last moment on an ad hoc basis without prior knowledge or notice. I would ask for the chair to rule on that.
Well, Madam Chair, if I can respond, some of our best decisions are made on an ad hoc basis. We heard from the city clerk last
No
week
debate,
that
point of order,
strike
there's
and
no
replace
debate.
are
There's no
appropriate.
debate.
And that's permitted by Robert's Rules of Order, not an individual counselor's rules of order.
Okay. First of all, seconder for your amendment, I believe, was Councillor Van Tilborg. So the amendment has been moved and seconded. I rule the amendment in order, so we can. So now, first time speakers to the amendment on the floor. Councillor Sakoli.
Yes, thank you. I will not be supporting this amendment. I don't believe we should be telling any homeowner what to do with anything on their property, and this will just enlarge the base of private property owners that are affected by this bylaw change. So for that reason, I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor Samwell on the amendment.
So I just had a question though. I was wondering if staff could clarify, is that if we do this amendment, would it not affect a lot more homeowners? As my earlier question.
Through the chair to Councillor Samwell, I don't have the exact numbers of properties within the city that would fall under that 1 acre or above, but yes, it would impact more than the original one. It says I would have to get the exact number again. This was a previous estimate, but it would impact approximately 2,500 properties as indicated in the report.
Thank you. So for that reason, as I've heard several times in other situations, I prefer the carrot over the stick. And I would prefer that we encourage homeowners to plant trees on their property by encouraging them to do so, or with our free tree giveaways, things like that. I won't be supporting this amendment.
Councillor McCreary on the amendment.
Madam Chair, thank you. I echo the words of the two astute previous speakers with respect to the impact this would likely have upon our community. I don't believe it's our place to be doing this. I think it probably would increase cost to the corporation of the city of Brantford. No doubt it's going to involve additional staff, which are not in the budget, and which would require increases in some of the subsequent years. And I won't look for an answer to that, but I think we should stay out of people's lives as much as we can. I would hope that everybody defeats this and we can put back the original clause, which, as I've stated earlier, should have been the item we're debating.
Councillor Sullivan on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When this whole tree canopy thing was going on and we were getting public feedback and giving them information, I did not receive one email stating they were in favor of us going and controlling their backyards and what they're allowed to have on their properties. However, I received dozens of emails stating that how much they were opposed to the city meddling on their private lands. So I too will not be supporting this amendment.
Councillor Sakoli, second time on the amendment. Oh,
Yes,
wait,
and
hold on a second. Councillor Martin, first time on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. When we talked about regulating backyard trees for homeowners previously, I got a call from a constituent who was quite proud of the fact he had about 7 trees on his property on an ongoing basis. When one got too old, he cut it down and planted a new one. He says, do I need to go and rent a chainsaw and cut down all the trees in my yard because I'll be faced with fees and charges and inspections to be able to cut down a tree in my own yard? And I talked him out of it at the time because I was quite hopeful that it would fail at council, and it did. We saw the light that we shouldn't be interfering in someone's backyard. And if this amendment carries tonight, there'll be a run on chainsaws at rental places so that people can get the tree down before this goes into place and they have to replace them 3 for 1 or pay a fee or pay a fine. So in order to stop a run on chainsaws at the local
I apologize, I'm laughing.
you can laugh at that. You're not laughing at me. Yeah. So I won't be supporting the amendment here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, I've got Counselor Carpenter on the first time speaking on the amendment.
Thank you, thank you. Well, it's interesting how the discussion goes depending upon when we're talking about private property. You know, we've had the discussion of private property when it comes to heritage properties, and individuals would say, well, it's important to keep the heritage. And good argument. Now we got an argument here saying, well, we shouldn't be telling people what trees they can keep on their property because it's private property. And we have different folks supporting different points of view here, which is, I guess, good. The issue is clearly that, as Council Burton said, that everybody laughed at, by the way, because it was funny, individuals actually going out and cutting trees down. Most people would be saying, should I cut my tree down if we're going to have, a lot of people were talking to me when this whole discussion was happening, outside of council discussion. If we bring a private tree bylaw, some people were talking about taking the trees down right now before this comes forward, because it might be too late. If council passes something like a private tree bylaw. I think we should, if we're going to move down this road at all on the half-acre properties or the acre properties, excuse me, we should make sure we get our trees planted first. We can't be telling people what they should be doing with their backyard until our backyard is already cleaned up and all the trees are planted and all the vacant spots that we have. We have lots of them. We have lots of opportunity to plant more trees, and that would make more sense to me. I can't support this now. I understand where the mayor's coming from here with the over an acre lot. You got a large property of an acre, then you would apply to have the tree taken down. That's what would happen. Is that doable? Well, an acre is a lot of land. If you got other 2,500 of them, I'm here, there's 2,500 people with 2,500 acre lots. I guess that would be a lot of land that came into the city's boundary would be large estate lots. So I'm not sure I can support this at this time. I understand the logic for it.
Okay, before we go. Okay, so for any more first-time speakers on the amendment? Okay, so second-time speakers on the amendment, I've got Counselor Sokoli.
Yes, and I hope that all of my counselor colleagues remember this argument next time we're talking about the heritage item, and I'm really glad to hear Counselor Carpenter bring this up. And at the very least, I'm consistent because I really don't think we have any right to be telling good, hardworking people what to do with their property and with what's on their property. I don't think the way this is proposed is fair. I don't think that just because I own a small little parcel of land that happens to back onto a much bigger tree lot, that now I'm really restricted on what I can do on my lot. So I don't really I understand why we kind of went that way, but I don't really appreciate it. This proposed amendment is going to take this this bylaw from affecting 644 households to affecting 2,500 households. So that's quite a significant change. There's also a lot of financial impact attached to this. Every day I'm getting emails from constituents saying, can you help me prune the trees on the street because I'm trying to walk my dog and I can't get under the trees. And we have from my understanding from staff, sometimes a 9-month wait list to get people out there, arborists, to help maintain our own trees. So I think it's a cart horse situation. We shouldn't be saying we're going to go out and plant all these trees and do everything without really looking at that department and how we can be able to keep up with the demand once we get out there and plant those trees. In the same breath, I don't see how we're going to have the staff to help manage something by expanding from 640 properties to 2,500 properties. We're going to have to do a lot of looking at that department to see how we're going to get out there and start really taking care and controlling the bylaw, because there's staffing included in that as well. So again, still not supporting this, just reminding everyone that at the very least I'm consistent and I will never support telling homeowners what they can do with their property. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, second time on your amendment.
Yes, my. So many, I call them Chicken Little arguments, which is, the sky's falling, the sky's falling. You won't be able to do anything with your property. The reality is this, that this would apply to properties that are 1 acre and larger. That's estate residential. How many people in this city have their home situated on property that's 1 acre or larger? Not too many. In fact, I would guess that most of those properties are 1 acre or larger are those that are ripe for intensification development, or they're industrial or commercial. And it's not going to prevent you from taking down a tree. It just says you got to put 3 more up. If your tree's not diseased and there's no good reason for taking it down, you got to plant 3 more. So it's hardly, saying someone can't do something with their property. Plus, the inflexible application of principle or adherence to principle can often result in bad policy decisions where you're not distinguishing what you're trying to achieve. I mean, protecting heritage is important, but how do you equate that to the existential threat of climate change, which threatens our very existence? That's a little different than heritage, a little more serious, I think. And I would submit to you that we've heard from Mr. Beach just how effective in an urban setting increasing the tree coverage is. There's probably no better way to manage the heat pump, heat sump, whatever you want to call it, and the impact that urban areas have on climate change than increasing your tree coverage. And that's what this does. It's, yes, sometimes it means you have to bend a little bit in terms of your private property rights. If the policy goal is worthy of our support. And I think helping to address an existential crisis to our very existence is worth supporting.
Okay, I've got Councillor Van Tilborg, first time on the amendment.
Thank you. We don't tell property owners what to do. Thank you. You've made my job a lot easier. I no longer have to handle one more bylaw complaint. The problem is that we do it all the time, but that's irregardless of what is before us now. I supported the mayor because I wanted to hear what he had to say. I think what the mayor is talking about really is the future, because I can tell you right now, based on all of probably the ward meetings where this went through, there was a consistent theme. And that theme came from the individual private property owner saying, we don't trust you. We know our yards. And quite frankly, most of them aren't going to run out with a chainsaw and cut down their trees. If they're going to cut them down, there's got a good reason for it. What did become apparently clear, very clear, was what they were seeing, because we never really witnessed this before, the rapid growth in the city of Brantford and how many trees we lose through development, and they're not coming back. And so that really, we have to do this in stages. This is going to be the first step. And I believe that there is the willpower on council. We probably could have gone to a time where we wouldn't even be able to get to that number 2. And I think we're all comfortably at number 2. I do believe that the mindset of the public may change in the future for number 3. I don't know how long that will take, but I know it's not here and it's not now. And I do know what I heard in my ward. What the mayor talks about, that need to hit those goals regarding our climate change that's happening. We know, and we heard from the presentations earlier, it is here, it is real, trees cool. And if you've ever been a motorcycle rider, there's always that cool thing where if you're on a really cold night, you aim for the city and you can just feel when you hit that bubble and you go, whoo, it's warm here. And you like it. But that's also reflective of what we don't have, trees. And every time we're doing development, and I think of the bottom of West Street, that was actually a swamp. We're putting up a couple of apartment buildings there now. That swamp will be gone. That swamp cooled our city. So again, that's development, and that's who we're really seeing making the biggest transformation of our city. And for every step forward we're probably going 1 or 2 back in regards to just our tree canopy. So like, I kind of believe that the mayor's amendment will go down in flames. But I do ideologically support it. But I think we all come here with our communities in mind and the goals that we want to achieve. If we all knew what Margaret Chesney Smith campaigned on for over 20 years, it was increasing our tree canopy, going to 40%. And quite frankly, we've went up maybe 16, 12%. So we know how long it takes. She was at that 20 years.
Okay, I've got Councillor McCreary, second time on the amendment.
Madam Chair, thank you. It was interesting to hear the mayor quoting almost verbatim from Mao's Red Book. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one, as Spock said. I don't buy it. You know, if we think we need more trees, let's buy them and plant them rather than transferring the hardship onto not just the hardworking people in the community, as Councillor Sokoli said, but let's not forget the pensioners as well, who worked hard all their lives and now are trying to enjoy the fruits of their labors without having to be onerously hammered with the jackboot of municipal government, forced to abide by a tree bylaw they neither want nor ask for. And I do believe that the thing to do is to vote this down, and I believe it may fail 10-1.
Okay, I've got Councillor Caputo, first time on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm having a hard time seeing the forest through the trees here right now. Sorry, man, I had to say it. We never tell a homeowner what to do. I totally agree with the fact that we need to be on top of our tree planting. I think we need to drive developers to do it for us as well. The two biggest areas that we have yet to develop don't have a large tree canopy right now on it, which means they should be paying for that stuff. And as a council, we need to look at our next year's budget to be able to put that stuff in so that we can actually go where there's trees not on boulevards now and put them in. Because if tomorrow I was to buy a home in an area and wanted to pull a pool in my backyard, but there was a tree there, I'd be afraid I couldn't do that. So I can't tell a constituent what to do, but we can certainly look after our property and go forward with that. So I'm not going to support this, Mr. Mayor. I think everybody's going to be on board. It will probably be 10-1, but I just wanted to say that, and thanks.
Okay, that being said, we are going to take the vote on the amendment only.
Thank you. That amendment lost on a recorded vote of 10-1. All those voting in favor are Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCrary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel Carpenter, Martin Caputo, and Sokoli.
Okay, back to our regular scheduled program, which was the original resolution before us. And I had Councilor McCreary down for a second speaking opportunity on the original resolution.
Madam Chair, thank you. And indeed, it has been so long since we had debated the original resolution. I'm not going to support the resolution before us either, because I think we're really attaching a solution to a problem we don't necessarily have. We've seen in the OP that we're searching for 40% tree coverage, but we heard tonight the best we can do is 26. And a lot of what's come out of this, a lot of the information is based on that number. And I'm not so sure that the numbers that we've heard tonight justify the actions even that we're going to be taking when we're voting on what's before us tonight. So I won't support it. I think staff have done some really good work here. I know they've been at it for ages and ages and ages, and it's a shame that we can't have universal buy-in to this tonight, but that doesn't impact at all on what's been done and what's before us. And I know Goggins done a lot of work, and the rest of our folks have chipped in, but I just can't buy into it. I'm sorry.
Okay, seeing no further speakers on the original resolution, Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Thank you. And that item carried on a recorded vote of 7-3. All those voting in favor are Counselor Sullivan, Sless, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter. All those opposed, Counselor McCreary, Martin, Caputo, noting Counselor Secoli out of the room at the time of the vote.
Okay, so now we are moving on to item 6.1.1 because there was a staff presentation, the alternative transportation review, looking for first-time speakers. Counselor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not in favor and I don't support the original draft design for the West Arterial. I've been very vocal about that. I do know that there is a couple of other options. We've hit a bit of a stumbling block. However, I would like to bring forth an amendment if it's appropriate this time, or would you rather others be able to speak to the item first and then I can bring my amendment after?
I think we'll entertain your amendment now.
Okay. Can you bring it up? So moved by myself, seconded by Counselor Secoli, that the following clauses be added. That due to the county's withdrawal of the collaboration efforts with the city on the regional traffic solution shortlist, let the mayor and CEO be directed to respectfully request the province to intervene on the city's behalf by means of a mediator between the city and county to ensure equal representation as the need has risen to a critical infrastructure shortfall. And E, that the clerk be directed to forward a copy of this resolution to the Honorable Pratmeet Singh Sakiera, Ministry of Transportation, the Honorable Will Boma, Member of Provincial Parliament of Brantford-Brant, the Honorable Larry Brock, Member of Parliament for Brantford-Brant, and the Honorable Doug Ford, the Premier of the Province of Ontario. And may I speak to it?
Go ahead.
As is stated earlier, this draft design has been sitting here for 40 years. So I don't know why we haven't explored this avenue before, but I think we need to get the province involved in it in order to look at a joint venture of looking at that Forest Road as the option for this arterial roadway. I don't believe coming down through that Oak Hill community is a viable solution. I know it was also mentioned that in 12 years, we'll be looking at 2.5 times the traffic going through the city. I don't think that's valid either. I live in West Brant and would never even consider going through the downtown if I could go out the west end through Rest Acres if I was going to the north. So I'm hoping to get everybody's support on this amendment.
Mr. Mayor, speaking to the amendment.
Yeah, my first comment would be procedural. We know from the S.E. Johnson experience that the province won't react to a request from the mayor and the CEO. And so the proper wording of the resolution should be that the council of the corporation hereby requests. That's what they respond to. I mean, a mayor and a CEO can help advocate. But the actual resolution, if you recall from the S.C. Johnson, it should say that. So I would suggest a friendly amendment to change that.
That's friendly.
Okay. And, I would say this, Madam Chair, that I think you tell from the questioning that, the situation, the traffic, and in particular, when we looked at this 4 or 5 years ago, it was in the middle of COVID and the traffic counts were really low. And we were hoping that traffic counts were going to come back after COVID passed, that thinking work from home would change traffic patterns. We're seeing now that it hasn't. We're back to the traffic patterns from before COVID. They're worse. The situation on Brant Ave, I think if you live in Ward 2 or you live in Ward 1 and you try to get up to the Northwest Industrial area, it's a crisis. And our traffic experts, the consulting traffic experts, they're experts. They know what they're talking about. They tell us it's going to get twice as bad. Can you imagine taking 25 minutes to go up Brant Ave? And the development that's taking place in Northwest, which is badly needed industrial land here in this city. I mean, that's going to happen. And it's going to happen probably in, 2, 3, 4 years start to happen. So this is something we absolutely have to come to grips with. It's been a decision that past councils have not come to grips with, to our detriment as a community. And so I can support this in the sense, we'll see what the province says. Just because you ask for facilitation doesn't mean they give it to you. And there's other ways to address this issue of the discord between us and the county. But there's no question that the word that we got from the county on the City Joint Committee is devastating to the possible alternate transportation routes. Because basically the message we got from them was they didn't have an appetite for it. And I kind of understand that. Do they really want to be expropriating their own residents' property for a city road? Probably not, without the province intervening. I can support this on the understanding that the environmental assessment is going to proceed. We definitely need that done, and that the environmental assessment is going to look at other possible options for the Arturo Road, not just right along the cemetery, but other options that theoretically pass through the county and would require the county's consent or the province's mandate to happen. So, but the question is, we can't afford to dither and delay and kick the can any longer. We've got to take some concrete steps moving forward to address this traffic crisis in our community.
Councillor Caputo to the amendment.
I'm going to support this tonight, but it's just nice to see that we've actually brought this back up in terms of having the ability to be able to move our traffic around. I think with the Averbridge construction happening, we'll probably get a pretty good idea over the next 30 weeks of what traffic is actually going to look like, since we've shut down a road, to get somewhat of an idea as to where we're going to be going forward. With the expected development, as the mayor said, in not only in industrial park, but in the new boundary lands, the issue is going to be getting people to and from. And the only alternative around that without this road is people going through subdivision streets, all these areas, and phones will be going nonstop and trying to do that. And it's not just Brant Ave. It'll be on King George Road, and it'll be on Colburn, and it'll be everywhere from trying to move people around. We have a lot of industry coming to this city, and the intent is to get people from their homes to work and back home within a reasonable time, and take the traffic off of the same arteries that was moving Brantfordians around when the population was 50,000. So it's about time. I'm glad that we got the flux capacitor repaired in our vehicle and brought back to the future here. And as the mayor stated, this should have been done 35 years ago, if not longer, because we actually started to build the city before we were able to put an infrastructure and roads moving people around.
Councillor Sless on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm reluctant to support this simply because it appears as though we're kicking things down the road again. And I know it's been said that we're not, but I view it that way. I think it's obvious the route that we should be going. It was the route in 81, I believe it was, and it's been the route ever since then. What's required, I think, is the political backbone to complete it. And I think we're getting pushed into that decision by the traffic jams that are being created because of lack of action. I really don't see anything fruitful coming out of the province. Talking to the county was very pointed in their, not reluctance, but their refusal to really work with the city. So you're going to enter into something where if you do build it, somebody's got to go backwards before they can go forwards if they're trying to get out of town. So to me, it's an illogical way to move traffic. I would hope that the EA will be done as quickly as possible, and I think it will point to I think the obvious. And I think at that point, council's going to have to either pony up or kick it down the road for another 20 years. But I think at some point a decision has to be made, and I think we're at that point, and I'm prepared to make that decision. And I don't think we need a crutch, or we don't need somebody else to try and solve our problems for us. We have a solution right in front of us. I think we just have to use it. So I won't be supporting it.
Councillor Sokoli on the amendment.
Yes, speaking just to the amendment, I will be supporting it. I second it. I think we've tried softer approaches before, collaborative approaches, and it doesn't hurt to have feelers out in multiple realms here. It doesn't hurt to ask, though I'm not really holding my breath that the province is going to step up and assist us with anything. But I do think it's imperative that we at the very least look at all of our options, including regional options, without stopping us from progressing forward. There's no such thing as too much information, so I will support moving forward with the study, but I do think it's time that we call upon the province to assist us with a more regionalized transportation outlook plan, so that we can move beyond this political red tape between us municipalities. And just that seems to be preventing us from moving forward with being able to do something that is ultimately right for all of the residents in both communities. So I will support this moving forward, not holding my breath, but I think it's the right thing to do, and it doesn't hurt to have lots of feelers out there. Thanks.
Councillor Van Tilborg on the amendment.
Yeah, I'll be supporting the amendment, and the particular main reason is when you look at what the Oak Park development will entail and how long it will take to go. And the fact is that we've seen what happens in delays, and quite frankly, growth has already happened out to County Road 18, Highway 24, we're almost there. The need to work with the county, and if we need a facilitator, mediator, prodder, it's going to be needed, whether it's regarding a change to Oak Park Road or not. It's still going to be needed. We're still going to grow. People will still be needing to use those ways. So at some point or another, we're going to have to engage with the transportation along those corridors. And knowing how long that takes, that could be 10 years down the road. So I'll be happy to support this. It's kind of like the backup plan to the backup plan, or may become the 4 plan, because you don't know which one can be accomplished sooner. It is by far logistically an easier route than having to build a bridge, but we don't have a dialogue. And without that dialogue, we have nothing, which may be a bridge too far.
Councillor McCreary on the amendment.
Madam Chair, thank you. I too will support Councillor Sullivan's wise amendment that's before us this evening. I think we should hold out hope to continue to be on good terms with the County of Brant, even though they've expressed some hesitation to continue to have discussions with us. I think this may be an opportunity to perhaps let cooler heads prevail. And I would ask for the leave of the mover and seconder, I would like to introduce what I think would be a friendly amendment, and that being that we also provide a copy to the leader of the official opposition and to the leader of the third party.
Okay, that's also friendly. Okay, so we would need the amendment friendly amended twice. Okay. Okay, my mistake. Okay, so I've got, first of all, Councillor Carpenter, first time speaking, and Mayor Davis, second time speaking to the amendment.
Okay. Okay, Mayor's mic's off. Thank you. Another friendly amendment, if I may. It says MPP Wilboma, but there's more than one MPP in the county of Brant. So can we include all of them, please? Is that acceptable? Okay, all right. And then speaking to it, if that's acceptable.
maybe clarity on that. There's more than one MP for the county of Brant. They didn't change the boundaries for the provincial boundaries. There's only one MP.
So we include the MP, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, it's the other MPs.
Yeah.
Thank you. And speaking to this, reason this is an important resolution, in fact, we should have done this some time ago, and the reason that the transportation plans have failed in the past over the 35 years is because we've always looked at only the jurisdiction within the city. This is the first time we've seen a plan that looks at outside the jurisdiction of the city's boundaries. We should not be, we are the hole in the donut. We're surrounded by a county. How could we do a transportation plan that doesn't include the county? They surround us. It doesn't make any sense not to have done that. So what this is saying is that we need to do that going forward. And I think this is a unique situation. I think we're the only municipality that's surrounded by another municipality. I can't see of any other in Ontario where that exists. So we certainly should be having an integrated transportation network, and it should be an integrated transportation subcommittee that does this. And that should be, if we can't make it happen, then we have to have the province step in and make it happen, because we cannot do infrastructure planning on roads and transportation without those that surround us where we have to go. The roads have to connect somewhere. They can't end. You know, like Wayne Gretzky Parkway ending at Park Road North, because where? Because the other side was the county, and it made no sense. We've seen situations like this in the past. If you want to know why Linden Road turns that sharp right there to Garden Ave, is because if it went straight, it would end in the county boundary, and there was a cost to maintaining the bridge. Those are past arguments. They've been going on for a long, long time. We need to have, this is a good resolution in the sense that we can portray this to the province. This isn't about the county, about the city. It's about the city and the county having one transportation master plan that helps all of us and gets us there together. And that means we have to respect the county, and the county needs to respect us. It's a two-way street. We have to treat them like equal partners all the time, not just when it suits us. So I'm going to support this resolution because it talks about having a solution within the county and the city. But the province has to come to the table at some point and say, fellas, we're surrounded by a county. You're in the center. You need to work together. Thank you.
Okay, I've got the mayor second time on the amendment, and Councillor Caputo, did you want to speak second time on the amendment? Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to staff. There was some confusion. Can we build a road through the municipality without their consent? That requires expropriation and.
Through the chair, that's somewhat of a complicated question that the legal department would be able to provide a fulsome response to at a later date.
Yeah. All right, so I'll leave it
Point
at
of order, is this germane to the amendment?
well, I'm
I
going
don't
on.
think it is.
Okay, this time I'm actually going to rule that it's not, does not address it. How about you address it when we vote on the amendment? It's not.
Well, how about I just continue on? I was just asked a question. I'm going to continue on. Not on that subject.
Not on that
On the
subject.
subject of the.
Okay,
amendment.
second
Okay.
time on the amendment, but not on that subject.
And I hope you apply the same principles you're applying to other speakers here tonight.
Okay,
To me, the mayor, and you're not discriminating against me as
I
the
will
mayor.
do my best.
All right, so let's, so I agree with the comments that are made that, it's really unfortunate that the county has taken this position, but I'm sympathetic. They were asked to help us with routes that are designed primarily to serve the transportation of city residents. And, would you really want to be involved in the expropriation of, city of Brantford residents to deal with a road that is really designed to serve the county? I mean, I understand that, but the problem is we're not just two separate municipalities. We're an area, we're a region, we're an economic block. And no one is speaking for or fighting for the entire area. And many of these solutions, yeah, if you add 1 + 1, it's 2. But actually, if we get together and we deal with some of these road situations, it's 1 + 1, I think, will equal 5 for the entire area. So I can certainly support this, but I might ask that you consider changing the word mediator to facilitator, because a mediator has no power to do anything other than just get people together in a room and have them talk. Facilitator has the ability of a mediator, but also has certain facilitation powers under the like it's the think it's the municipal act, and can actually be a little more directing and more proactive than just a mediator. So I suggest that you change to facilitator, as we did in the SC Johnson resolution.
Okay, and that's
That's friendly.
Councillor Caputo, second time to the amendment.
Yes, and thank you, Chair. I couldn't have agreed more than exactly what Councilor Carpenter said. We need to be able to work together as a union. We have to work together because we all have the common good to be able to, that we're trying to achieve here. Because we need to move Brantfordians and we need to move people within the county as well. Because there is an interaction between the two. The disappointing part was the fact that they have moved on from the joint task force, which pretty much puts us in a situation where we have to have the province get involved. And that's, to me, is actually very disappointing because we should have been able to do this on our own. But at this point now, we have to get we have to get others involved, and I don't believe it's going to end there with this. So thanks.
Okay, seeing no further speakers, we're going to call the vote on the amendment. Oh, sorry, Indy, yeah.
To you, Chair, if I can, I'd like just clarification on this because in my presentation, I did mention that during phase 1 and 2 of the EA, we would look at options within the county. And if those are not going to be moved forward, we would then fall back into the alignment that or the corridor that we have within the city. So that may not need mediation if we are already within the limits, because as you move further west towards Rust Acres, more vehicles will take Brant Ave. You're not achieving what we're trying to do, and that's why Rust Acres wasn't one of the top alternatives. So if we are looking at that and the possibility of even building a road on county property may take years in terms of possible OLT, or can we even have a road designated in the county? I don't even know. So that to me is an issue, but that we're going to have as part of the alternatives that we're going to review to see if that's even a viable option. And if that's not at phase 3 of the EA, which we would have been now, we would fall back into city property, which is what I think we can move the fastest. So just clarification on what phase would this mediation happen, and are we in clause B moving forward, which has to reinitiate the EA? So if I could just get that clarification for staff. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question of staff. Does this amendment impede the original resolution, which means that the alternative transportation review be received and that staff be directed to reinitiate the municipal class EA study for a west arterial roadway, and that council approve funding of $430,000 from the Transportation Development Charge Reserve Fund? So you answer as to whether this, like, we haven't changed that at all. So does this amendment impede you from anything related to the original resolution?
To chairs, so the initiating the EA, maybe the amendment has to include that pending the preferred corridor. And if that corridor is within the county, then this happens. Because reinitiating the EA phase 1 and 2, we have to look at whether Force Road is an option or anything between there and Jennings is an option. And if those are not options, or sorry, if they are options, then we may need to have mediation. But if they are not options, we have the corridor that's already preserved for this roadway. So to me, reinitiating the EA would be dependent on this mediation right now, as I understand it, but that's the clarification I was looking for.
Okay, so I'm getting from the mover and that the amendment was initiated to run concurrent with the original resolution. So you would be continuing with the work in terms of the original resolution, but then that that the amendment, if it was to pass, would also be running concurrently at the same time. Does that clarify what?
The chair, that clarifies that we can reinitiate the EA and carry on the work that we need to, and then maybe we can report back to council as to during the public information sessions, et cetera, as to what that corridor and where it is, whether it's in the county or the city that is the best preferred corridor. So that works.
Okay, so I've got Councillor Slass second time on the amendment.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think the director just more eloquently than I stated my concerns. We're going to have this water so muddy that we won't be able to see the shore. There was a straightforward process that at least in my opinion made a lot of sense, and now we're starting what I think someone's calling a parallel process to see if we can do something else. And at the end of the day, I think, as was stated, you're years and years and years away from building roads in other jurisdictions. So I just don't get why some would think that this is a good idea. I think we have a straightforward project in front of us. It has an end goal. It's going to go through a process that we have to go through, and at the end of it, we make a decision. But we're now throwing in another process and hoping somehow all of this works out. And I think that's a recipe for disaster. So again, I won't be supporting it.
Okay, seeing no other speakers. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Martin, your first time on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I won't be supporting the amendment. As Councillor Sluss said, this muddies the waters. It's going to take some staff time that would be better spent working on the EA, because this project needs to move forward. It's been far too long on the books without being done. So the amendment, I think, is going to muddy things and slow things down. And that's the last thing we need on this project, is to have it slowed down any further. So I hope the amendment fails and this can move forward at a quicker pace. Thank you.
I've got Councillor Sullivan second time on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify something here. I know everybody's showing some concerns with regards to muddying the water. However, the purpose of this amendment was, I know people had concerns with regards to the EA not being completed. Originally, I was just going to have the EA scratched altogether and just bring forward the amendment, and instead decided to go concurrently because we need to exhaust all our options before we're looking at things we don't need to look at yet.
Okay, seeing no other first time or second time speakers, we are calling the vote on the amendment as amended a couple of times friendly.
I have a point of clarification. I'd like a clear answer from staff. Does D and E, does that slow down or hinder the environmental assessment? Yes or no?
Okay, Indy, I believe that was similar to my question.
Through the chair to Mayor Davis, I would say yes, it would slow down the EA.
Can I also get a point of clarification? Indy, if they're running concurrently, how does the one get halt?
Through the chair, if the need for a mediator and we're requesting the province to take action, I can't predict how long or if we would even get somebody to mediate. And then what the solution would be, and if the county is coming to the table. And then is the solution even, is the province going to come and ask us that there's no other solution possible, that this is the only solution we have to do? So we would have to be, my guess is that we would have to be absolute in the need for the county, for a roadway in the county to actually have the province intervene and say, we need to build the road here. Right now, in terms of property and the property needs and all of that, we have one property that we would require for the current corridor, and having property within the county would take time to acquire as well. So there, to me, there would be a delay in moving the roadway and the EA forward if this was to go forward, the amendment was to go forward.
So if we are looking at an EA study and not acquiring properties, just doing an EA study, I still don't understand how that would be delayed or held up.
Point
if
of
we're
order,
asking
is
the
this a
province-
point of clarification or a third speaking opportunity?
I'm just trying to get clarification. I'm not getting clarification from what was said. It still doesn't make sense as to how this will delay.
Okay, just because I feel like we've gone right off the rails here. So I'm going to use my power, such as it be as the chair, call the vote on the amendment. I believe staff has sufficiently answered the question, and we also will get another chance.
I'm gonna move a deferral of the amendment.
A deferral is always in order.
All right, deferral of the amendment, so we consider this at, a decision on this at, the council meeting. And the reason why I'm asking for it is so that we have an answer to this issue, which is, because I'm wondering why you can't do both, and you're doing an environmental assessment to begin with in the original road, and if the D&E is successful, you then amend or extend the environmental assessment to these other potential roads. So I have so much confusion that I have in terms of what the implications are of my vote that I don't
Point of
really
order,
feel comfortable
deferral,
voting.
not debatable.
Okay. We need you need a seconder for the deferral. Councillor Sakoli, is that you seconding the deferral? Okay. Okay, so we do have a deferral on the amendment. Time and place would. Okay, is this time and place to June 25th? Okay. Okay, so now,
Point of clarification.
that's a
If
really
we
gray
defer just the
area.
amendment, do we still vote on the main motion tonight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, because we are not deferring the main motion. Okay, so
So right now, we're going to vote on the deferral of just the amendment, and we're gonna vote on it to defer it to council. The deferral of the amendment lost on a recorded vote of 4-7. All those voting in favor are Councillors Sakoli, Samwell, Hunt, and Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Van Tilburg, Carpenter, Martin, and Caputo.
okay, so we're back to the original amendment that's on the floor, not deferred. And I believe everybody has spoke, so we're gonna call the vote on the amendment that's on the floor. The amendment, this is the vote on the amendment only.
So the amendment carries on recorded vote of 7-4. All those voting in favor are Councilors Sullivan, McCrary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, and Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councilors Sleth, Sokoli, Caputo, and Councilor Martin.
Okay, back to, again, our regular scheduled program. Counselor Sullivan, I had you speaking first time to the original resolution, which has now been amended.
That's not necessary now.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers? Okay, Counselor Sokoli,
To the main
to
motion.
the main motion as
All right.
amended.
And for staff, because I think there's a certain amount of responsibility attached to what we discuss here and the ideas that are sometimes floated around. And I think poor Mayor Davis tried to touch on this question earlier. But I do want to ask one more time, is it possible for the city to purchase property in another jurisdiction and plow a highway through it? I would think the answer is no.
Through the chair, just Counselor Sokoli, my first take is also no, that is very difficult to do that. And I'm sure there'd be some processes and the province would have to get involved with that.
Yeah.
So my first take is no, but as our legal has suggested, we could provide some information between now and council, but I find it very difficult to purchase property and have the county designate right of way and make that right of way.
I've heard a few people float this idea a few times and the residents will sometimes get a hold of this information and think that this is a solution. And I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page moving forward. I've said it before, I say it again, we can't keep developing in Ward 1 in West Brant at the rate that we are without providing for some type of investment in our transportation. This transportation crisis is a tale as old as time. And as a matter of fact, fun fact, we've been talking about this since before I was born. So it's time for us to move forward, to make a decision, and we're going to have some tough decisions in the near future. The chart here says that in the report that Ward 1 West Brant is just shy of 17,000 people right now, with 80% of us commuting in the north and in the east. But that's going to change, and that's only going to get worse in the next 15 years, as we're projected to be, as Indy said, at 30,000 people in West Brant. And most of us are going to be moving still to the north, but also to the west. So we really have to look at these transportation corridors, and we're going to be the most dense area of population growth in all of Brantford, representing 22% of the population of Brantford in West Brant alone. So the solution is twofold. We've already heard from Indy and his amazing staff who's provided us with some of our operational changes coming hopefully to Colborne, Dalhousie, Brant Ave, to the Lorne Bridge, to Clarence and Dalhousie, that intersection. Brant Ave is going to be an absolute disaster if we don't start making some tough decisions as we're doing here tonight. The other major part of this is, like I said, finding a permanent solution for this highway access. Everybody who bought a house in West Brant was told that a highway access is coming. Every single person who bought a house out there, and I see some people laughing because you live there, you were probably told that at one point. So had you presented this to me a few weeks ago, I might have been a little more open to pumping the brakes on this EA. But the county's made it abundantly clear that despite our best efforts at this point in time, they're not really open to discussing some of the collaborative transportation efforts. So we find ourselves with a solution here, and we find ourselves a little bit landlocked with what solutions we can be looking at. I'm open to, and I'm hopeful that staff can maybe move forward with this once we go through the EA and we find some other solutions that maybe cut onto county lands. And I'm hoping that we can work with staff to staff and maybe find some solutions there. You know what, I'm going to leave it right there for now. Thanks, guys.
Counselor Samwell.
Thank you. So I will cautiously be supporting this tonight, because it just is the EA. But it's being ever mindful that I'm hoping that we're looking at a way to ensure that we're not going near the cemetery, and that would change my position if we go that route. So I'm going to cautiously support it tonight, and I'm hoping that things work out the way that I would hope.
Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you. And as a former Ward 1 councillor said, God bless you for your stalwartness tonight in dealing with a number of questions. Of course, we don't have traffic problems in the 3rd Ward because Councillor Margaret and I have managed to look after that quite nicely over the years, but we are happy to weigh in and you know, contribute to the traffic woes in the 1st Ward and 2nd Ward and offer our support on this. I believe both Councillor Sless and Councillor Sicoli alluded to tough choices. And I wasn't around, I don't think, when they started to build out the new West Branch, but it seems as though had tough choices been made then, we wouldn't be here today. And the other tough choice that was never followed by prior councils was the road access through the 5th Ward, which would have connected West Branch to the 403 at that end. That tough choice didn't get made either. I have a copy of the 1975 transportation plan that I come across occasionally when I'm cleaning things out. And I don't think we did what that one said. And the earliest, of course, was the I think it was 1914 Dunnington Grubb report, which looked at traffic patterns in the city of Brantford and strongly recommended a bridge at St. Paul Avenue. So that's 108 years we've been waiting for that one. And maybe as Councillor Sless and Councillor Sicoli said, maybe it's time now that we did, you know, the courageous thing and take some tough choices and get folks looked after so the Ward 1 constituents can live the lives that they deserve and spend less time on the road.
Councillor Van Tilborg.
Fun fact, origins of the plan, 1961, before I was born. You know, it's easy to judge and criticize how this has been kicked down the road, but here's where we're at. And the bottom line is that once upon a time, a highway went right through the middle of downtown Brantford and along Brant Ave. And it got to the point that it was unsustainable. And the city worked hard before everybody else, before there were ends to a highway, we put one right in the middle of the city. We didn't have a highway to the west and a highway to the east, and we lobbied the province to put one in the middle. And that way we could at least guide traffic around the city until the rest of the highway was made. That was done with the work of 3 different MPPs of all different political stripes working together for the city of Brantford. With regards to our growth, we are going to need to look at what's going to happen with us in the county in the future. We're not going to have to, we can't avoid that any more than we can avoid what West Brant is facing right now. I can tell you based on those 40, 50, and 60-year delays, no politician ever told anybody buying a home in West Brant, you're going to have a road in the next couple of years. Not happening. But marketers will say anything in order to sell a home, and it is in the official plan. So the bridge that goes across Oak Park Road and across the Hardy Road, we have 4 ward councillors attached to either side of that bridge. And you've got to listen to both sides. That bridge would be sitting significantly higher than the 3 bridges we currently have in the city of Brantford, all of which were blocked in the freak storm of 2016. We couldn't get across. Cockshut, Veterans, and Lauren were blocked. And I knew then we needed to have another bridge. And the one that was in the plans is that one. And that would be high enough that if we ever got caught where we couldn't run ambulances, security, anything back and forth, that's a necessity for a city. With regards to transportation, people in West Brant wanting to go to the industrial park, it only makes sense that you go that way. The people that are caught in the trap are often the very ones trying to push back against the solution. It's right there, it's right in front of them. So what's the drawback? And the biggest drawback that I have heard, and I hear it consistent, and I hear it loud, and I hear it clear. Nobody wants us to go anywhere near the cemetery. It is 100% a complete non-starter. That's going to kill that road, now that we're talking about it more than anything else, if we can address clearly, concisely to the public what the status of that cemetery is going to be, or you will have everybody that has friends and family in those cemeteries absolutely opposing that road. We need that outlet. We need the bridge. We need access to the industrial park. We need to relieve Brant Ave, but there's more than that. Cars coming down Dalhousie Street, and today was no different. I am stopped at Alexander Park on my way to this very council meeting. And it is lined up all the way, and I have to drive in the right-hand lane and pass all them, because thank goodness I'm not turning left. I'm not trying to go to West Brant. I'm not trying to go to Eagle Place. I'm coming downtown. But everybody else is backed up in that one single file lane all the way to Alexander Park. So we're going to alleviate some of the traffic issues there as well. We do know we have to do something. I don't know whether we'll ever get to having that bridge built or the road, but it's got to be clear. I want to have public meetings. I want to make it clear. Is that, I want to know if that starts in the EA study, or can we hold those meetings now for the general public before we start that EA study even? Because I want the public's consent. If I don't see the public's consent, I'll guarantee you we're not going anywhere. And yet we need that road bad. So we have to make our case, and the public needs to be heard. And I guarantee you we've got to deal with that cemetery up front early, or I won't even be supporting it. I just won't be. So I'll do everything I can to make the alleviation of the traffic situations. I know how hard this is. We're not going to get a road and a bridge probably even in the next 10 years. We have to fund that bridge. But certainly to get the roadmap laid out with acceptance of the community, with acceptance of the people, I kind of get frustrated
Councillor Van Tilburg, you got about 10 seconds left.
when people in the ward complain about a road that's going to solve the problem in the ward.
Councillor Sless.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'd like clarity. We have approved approaching the province this evening. Is that correct? Could the clerk respond, please?
Sorry, through the chair, can you repeat that question?
By the amendment, we have approved this evening involving the province to bring in a facilitator, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. All right. Having done that, I would hope and I would ask that, and I don't know whether direction needs to be given to staff to clarify just exactly how much this impedes the EA process and arriving at a decision on building a roadway that connects what we're trying to connect. And I can tell you, listening to the discussion and hearing the reasons why people are doing certain things really reminds me of when we were building the Wayne Gretzky Parkway. And probably Councillor Carpenter will remember this. There was a lot of pushback on that. Now we're at a point where people are telling us we need to add more lanes to it. But at when it initially started, there was a lot of pushback. The world was ending and things were not going to be good. And we're kind of at that point now with this crossing or with this piece of roadway where there seems to be a lot of trepidation to move forward with something that is probably misunderstood in a lot of cases. But I think not by members of council, but by members of the public. They're not really sure what we're talking about. And I think something that would really help is if there was a drone video showing the routes that are being proposed. I think that would go a long way in showing people and demonstrating just exactly where things are, because the stories get carried away with how detrimental things are going to be, and they get exaggerated and they get blown way out of proportion. That if you can demonstrate by showing somebody in video exactly what something is that's being proposed, I think would go a long way in alleviating a lot of the trepidation that people have with the potential for this going forward. So having said that, I'm going to support the amended version this evening, not because I support going to the province, because I don't, but I do support moving forward with the EA and coming out with a resolution that isn't, again, decades away. I think one of the councilors said if we do something, it's going to be on Brent Ave. Newsflash, already a mess on Brant Ave. We're trying to clean up a mess, not hoping something isn't created. So having said that, I'll support reluctantly the amended version. I would have preferred to be supporting as was presented, but I will support the amended because it does move the process forward. And hopefully we'll get some clarity on exactly how much involving the process will bog down the process. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're doing a great job under the difficult circumstances. And before anybody gets excited, part of the recommendation is that the report titled Alternate Transportation Review be received. So I'm going to speak to it, not just the one subject, but a little bit of history on this whole. The BSAR was supposed to go through the Glebe-lands, and that's why that failed, and that's why it ends at Coburn Street. Wayne Gretzky Parkway ends there. And now we're looking at completing the far end of it. But that BSAR was supposed to be a 100-kilometer-an-hour road, no traffic lights on it whatsoever, full of clover leaves, and that was to move the traffic. And I think that was done in the 1950s. And the province was paying the lion's share of it, by the way. So that got withdrawn, and we sold off a lot of the property for the clover leaves, and the city benefited from that money, but the province benefited by not having to pay for this roadway. So, but looking at to staff, now you have one recommendation for us, but there's a number of things that you studied. Will we not actually have to do all of these things or most of these things in the future if we're going to alleviate traffic? I know the recommendation really concentrates on West Brant, but.
Through the chairs, just all the 14 alternatives, is
Yeah.
that your question? No, that was for the purposes of meeting with the ward counselors and understanding what alternatives that they had in mind that they wanted us to really study, because that was part of the direction of staff back in June 2021. is to
But
check
the report does speak to County Road 18, which is in the county, but it provides north-south access route and the short hop from Mount Pleasant Street through to Highway 24, which also meets the highway. And then we would have a perfect ring road around the city for future north-south traffic. So we're never going to need that?
Through the chair, no, we may need that. We would study that when that need comes, because there's also the VMP EA that we have, as well as a possible Colburn to Gretzky and Clarence route that we have to study as well. So that's the information that's within the TMP we'll move forward with. This study that had County Road 18 outside of our jurisdiction, we'll take that into consideration as well.
So the recommendation before us will have nothing to do with solving the problems on the traffic jams on Clarence Street and the Clarence Street racetrack or West Street?
Through the chair, no, this focus right now is on the north-south growth areas that we have. And like I said, we're not ignoring the fact that there is east-west issues, but the direction right now we're seeking is just for that north-south traffic.
Okay, so we'll be looking at those coming forward. Like, we haven't forgotten those, so people on Clarence and West Street could know that we'll be looking at those going forward.
Through the chair, that's correct.
And I know someone had talked about the West Brant population. Well, the north of Powerland Road population will probably equal that, or may even surpass that when that boundary lands. It's a fair bit of land, and we'll have access. But we do have Wayne Gretzky Parkway, and we're going to widen that, so that will give us that opportunity. And how we handle the east-west traffic through that new subdivision will also make a big difference. So, thank you.
Okay, just to make sure I didn't miss anybody's waving hand. Seeing no other speakers, we're going to call the vote on the motion as amended.
Item 6.1.1, alternate transportation review carried on a recorded vote of 10-1. All those voting in favor are Councillor Sullivan, Slash, McCrary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Martin, Caputo, Secoli, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Carpenter.
Okay, it is 8:30, so we've been at this for 2.5 hours, so I'm going to call a 10-minute break. And we will resume at 8:40. Okay, I've got 8:40, so I'm gonna call the meeting back to order. So the next item that I have separated is 6.1.4. And Counselor Carpenter, you asked for that one to be separate.
I'll just be quick, and I want to thank staff for this. Staff met with Counselor Hunt and I. This test result's going to be part of our ward in Johnson Road area. There's a large subdivision there. What they're looking at is looking at the cross connections, eliminating cross connections that may exist into the water seeping into our sanitary sewers and causing lots of problems. And they've sweetened the pot, quite frankly, because part of the discussion is going to be, look, if we get in your home, we find a cross connection, we're still going to put the backflow prevention. So the backflow prevention valve is actually being required by a lot of insurance companies if you've had floods in your house. And so there's an advantage to the residents to allow them to look in their homes and see if they've got any cross connections and fixing those cross connections and then putting in a backflow prevention valve. So I think that Linda and I will work hard to make sure the residents are clear of what we're doing here and to try and get them on board, because this is an idea to reduce the excess flow into our sanitary sewers where it shouldn't be taking place. So I want to thank staff for the way they went about this and the discussion they had with us and about the work they're going to have within the neighborhood. We appreciate it very much. Good work.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Through you to staff. Are the biggest problems in newer neighborhoods or older neighborhoods?
Through the chair to Councillor Martin, it's normally in older neighborhoods pre-1960s.
Okay, because if this was in the newer neighborhoods, I couldn't agree with the city paying 100% because they should have been following the current requirements and not connecting the downspouts into the sanitary sewer. But if it predates those regulations, then okay. Thank you very much.
Seeing no other speakers, we will call the vote.
Item 6.1.4 carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Sullivan, Slash, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, and Secoli.
Next item separated for discussion is 6.1.6, the Brantford Airport Board Report. Councillor Martin, you asked for that to be separated.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have an amendment. Should be not contentious. If I can move that now, if that's okay. Okay, I move seeking a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Caputo. The clause B be struck and replaced with the following. That County Councillor Garneau be appointed to the Brantford Airport Board for a term to expire November 14th, 2026. And speaking to it, either it's just a coincidence that they decided to change their representative on the board, or they got wind of what was passed at the board and came up with a replacement for Mayor Bailey. And this shortens the process and gets the county representative back onto the airport board quicker, and it makes everything a little more streamlined and better. So I'm hoping that this can be passed as it is without any contentious discussion. Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter on the amendment.
Yes, just on the amendment. Did I hear the mover say that Councillor Garneau was accepted?
If I may, Madam Chairman, this was a recommendation from the county. This is who they're putting forward.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sorry, Councillor McCreary on the amendment.
That was my question as well, Madam Chair.
Okay, seeing no other speakers to the amendment, we can call the vote on the amendment.
And that amendment carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Sullivan, Slass, McCurry, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, and Councilor Secoli.
Now, any speakers to the resolution as amended? Counselor McCreary.
I think it's speaks volumes that they've appointed Counselor Garno. I served with her on Chamber of Commerce for part of a term, and her attendance was perfect, and she contributed fully as their liaison. I'm just wondering, Madam Chair, through you to staff, does the County of Brant contribute financially any way to the support of the City of Brantford's airport?
Do you, I'm looking to look through, Madam, and they can, if I've answered incorrectly, I'm sure Kim will skill answer. But through Madam Chair to the counselor, no, the County of Brant does not contribute to the city's airports. City does pay property taxes in the County of Brant.
Okay, so they don't contribute to the operation of the airport other than to collect money from us, and they have representation. I would suppose that perhaps Norfolk County benefits from the airport as well, and Six Nations, and perhaps Woodstock. Do any of those contribute financially or have seats on our board?
To you, Madam Chair, to the counselor, they do not, those reference Six Nations nor Woodstock nor Norfolk County contribute financially or have representation on the board.
Okay. Has there ever been a proposal put forward to the county that that you should perhaps pay for the representation that you have on the board by contributing financially?
To the council, this was one of the 12 items that was on the Joint Service Committee and was going to be a staff report brought forth about that matter, about how we partner together now and in the future. But obviously that committee is not no longer existent.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Hutchings. I guess maybe there should be since there's not going to be an external two-party discussion on this, maybe there should be an internal discussion about it perhaps, and maybe the airport board could make a recommendation to our city council as to whether representation should be based upon being a contributing partner, and maybe the representation should be based upon the level to which one contributes, which sort of reminds me of the late discussion about the Brant County Health Unit. Thank you.
Counselor Carpenter.
I got to chime in now. I'm not sure that every board member on the airport board is a contributing member to the airport at all. But having said that, the airport is in the county. It's in the county lands. The county provides services to the airport, road work, network, and anything that's asked of the airport, the county would provide infrastructure. So the infrastructure is the county's, and the county pays for that infrastructure partly through the taxes. So I think if the county sees a need for the airport to be there or a benefit to the county, I'm sure they'd be involved. But currently, that's not the case for them. So I think we should be welcoming Councillor Garneau and not throwing any stones at this point.
Counselor Martin, the second time.
Just a quick comment. One of the benefits of having the county representative on the board was when they did their official plan, they included height restrictions on all the approaches to the runways to the airport. So we do get some benefit from having county representation on the board, and I would hope that council will support this tonight. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other speakers, Madam Clerk, can you call the vote?
Thank you. Item 6.1.6, Brantford Airport Board Report as amended, carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, and Secoli.
Okay, moving on to item 7, resolution. So we have 2 resolutions on tonight's agenda. Councilor Van Tilburg, can you please move your resolution and state your seconder?
Moved by myself, seeking a seconder. Seconded by Councilor Carpenter. Support decision of the Ontario Energy Board to end gas pipeline subsidies. Whereas residents are struggling with energy bill increases and need relief. Whereas natural gas is no longer the cheapest way to heat homes because electric heat pumps are now more efficient and can provide all heating needs even in cold climates and result in lower energy bills over the long term compared to gas heating. And whereas natural gas is a methane gas, which is a fossil fuel that causes approximately 1/3 of Ontario's greenhouse gas emissions and eventually must be phased out because of inconsistent with all climate targets, while heat pumps result in the lowest greenhouse gas emissions and are consistent with a zero carbon future. And whereas the Ontario Energy Board decided to end a subsidy for methane gas pipelines to be built in new construction developments effective 2025, finding that this would lower energy bills for existing gas customers and improve affordability for new home buyers. But this decision is at risk of being overturned by the provincial government. And whereas the OEB decision will help lower energy bills and encourage heating systems that are consistent with climate targets and plans, and whereas the construction of new methane gas pipelines, which have 60-year targets and will result in higher carbon emissions, higher energy bills, higher future decarbonization retrofit costs to get off fossil fuels, and a continued financial drain as dollars leave the province to pay for fossil fuels extracted in other jurisdictions. And whereas the city of Brantford declared a climate emergency in 2019, and whereas transforming buildings by supporting actions that improve energy efficiency align with goals outlined in the Brantford's Climate Action Plan. Thereby be it resolved that the city of Brantford expresses support for the decision of the Ontario Energy Board to end the gas pipeline subsidy and respectfully requests that the Ontario government allow this decision to stand and that this resolution be circulated to the presidents of the Association of Municipalities, Colin Best, Premier of Ontario Doug Ford, Minister of Energy Todd Smith, Minister of Finance Peter Bethlenelevy, and all Ontario municipalities requesting support for the proposed changes. This resolution's been passed in a number of other cities, I believe Hamilton and Toronto. But what this really comes down to is consumer choice and who's subsidizing what. And so far you have existing residential users subsidizing developers who are building houses and industrial sites and supplying that natural gas pipelines to their thing. That's done on a taxpayer. And that shouldn't be done. We don't allow Bell. We don't subsidize Bell. We don't subsidize Rogers. We do allow them access to lands, but we don't do the subsidy. They pay for those connections. And that's the way it should be. We shouldn't be supplying or subsidizing the connections. And so I imagine the Ontario Energy Board ruled it as somewhat of a bonusing, something that municipalities aren't allowed to do. And therefore, this subsidy of paying for the gas lines into new subdivisions is going to come to an end. However, there is a word that the Ford government may be changing this and allowing that subsidy continue to pass 2025. So to me, what this comes down to is who should be paying the freight on this? It's about consumer choice. I believe that the average citizen shouldn't be subsidizing that. I believe that these are very wealthy billion-dollar companies, and they can handle the connections, the pipelines into the subdivisions and the connections to the homes.
Councilor Carpenter.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Ontario Energy Board's role in the first place is to review all energy decisions, whether it be hydro or gas or whatever it might be, and to look for fairness and to make sure that the customer is being treated fairly. And the Ontario Energy Board has ruled that people should not be paying for development to have gas lines run to their development on their gas bill. And currently, your gas bill is, if your gas bill, you don't think your gas bill is high, it's because you're paying for somebody else's expense. And that somebody else's expense is clearly being forced upon them when you say that the gas company can charge that back to you, the customer, for providing services to new development. And the new development, we've always said development should pay for development. It shouldn't be the taxpayer subsidizing development. And that's why the Energy Board has ruled very common sense, very commonsensical, that what we should be doing is everybody should be paying their own way. So if you want a gas line run to your home, you pay for it. If the gas company wants to run it to your home and they pay for it, they certainly shouldn't be charging the person next door or the other customer. They certainly shouldn't be charging anybody else for it. But when the gas company does it for whole developments, and we've got lots of building going on in Ontario, that means your hydro bill, your gas bill is going to go up because you're paying for those developments. If this is, you will be paying for it till 2025. So your gas bill, if you think your gas bill is high, well, this is one of the reasons why, because you're paying for somebody else's work. And so this is just a common sense resolution. I can't see anybody voting against this. This isn't anti-development. This is just say, you need to pay for what's yours and I'll pay for what's mine.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a few problems with some of the whereases in this. It states that heat pumps are the cheapest way to heat, but a heat pump needs a backup. And if you don't have gas furnace for a backup, you're using electric resistance heat, which is probably the most expensive way to heat anything. So to say that we don't need gas, that we can do this cheaply with electricity is not true.
Open to changes, Councillor Martin.
Excuse me, I have the floor.
Open to changes.
To suggest that,
Okay, Councillor, okay, so Councillor Martin's going to continue.
I hope so.
If you,
I have the floor, do I not?
would you like to suggest an amendment to the whereases?
No, I'm just gonna vote against it. Because this is nonsense. Do I have the, okay, I do have the floor. I'd like some time added back on for the interruption. To suggest that heat pumps are the best way to heat your home, you're ignoring the capital cost for a heat pump, which is huge. It's much higher than a gas furnace, which you still need as backup. So there's a lot of issues there. It's been suggested people need choice. Well, they need the choice of being able to have gas for a backup. To suggest that Bell doesn't get subsidize installing lines on existing customers, that's nonsense. They break in whatever money they do and they use it the way they see fit. And that means charging existing customers for new projects. Just exactly what this is doing here. So there's a whole lot of problems with this. And if you're really concerned about high gas bills, you should be petitioning the federal government to take the carbon tax off home heating. It's been suggested many times. It's something that needs to be done. But that's what's pushing up your gas bill more so than subsidizing new lines going in, which the company's going to pay for through existing revenues, which are the existing customers. So this whole thing is nonsense and it's not worth amending. We just need to throw it out and vote it down.
Councillor McCreary.
Madam Chair, thank you. It's hard to top Councillor Martin's passion on this issue. And Councillor Van Tilburg's as well. And I hope that I can contribute equally to that passion by suggesting to the mover and seconder that they would accept as friendly my suggestion that this be copied to the leader of the opposition and the third party.
Oh, that's friendly.
Okay, the mover and seconder have indicated that is friendly. Did you have anything else, Councillor McCreary, or?
Oh, no, I believe I've said enough.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sakoli.
Yes, thank you. And I've learned to sort of do my own research when we have councillor driven resolutions that come forward. And this one caught my eye and I'm kind of glad to see that I'm not alone because I was poking around and kind of doing a bit of my own research and looking at the flip side of this, and I fear that there may be some unintended consequences with this OEB decision moving forward. And I realize that it's under review right now. There was an appeal that happened. But then I see sort of in the interim that the government du jour has passed Bill 165, which is the I have it written down somewhere, keeping energy costs down, which sort of speaks to the opposite of this. So I feel like maybe we as a council don't have that much information on this. And I do see some inconsistencies in the whereases in here. So I'm not going to be supporting this today because I do think that ending a subsidy will eventually just, it's going to land in the consumers, coming out of the consumer's pocket at the end of the day. I don't know why we would want to end a subsidy. It's going to put a halt to thousands and thousands of homes being able to be connected in the middle of a housing crisis. I don't know why we would want to stop moving forward on that. And I think it kind of speaks to the opposite of consumer choice when you're cutting off an entire choice and forcing people into the realm of the heat pumps, which I don't think is a bad thing. I just think consumer choice is important. And in looking at that, I determined that you still need gas as like a backup. So that didn't make sense to me as to why we would want to prevent that. So anyway, just feeling like I don't have a full understanding of the repercussions, and this whole topic is way over my pay grade. I am not going to be supporting this today, though I can appreciate the intent of it. I just feel like there's a lot of unintended consequence to supporting this, and I do believe that there are a lot of municipalities who will be writing letters to the opposite effect. So that just tells me that I just don't know enough about it and that we don't know enough about it and that there are some inconsistencies here. So maybe a little more research is needed before supporting something that could be quite detrimental to growth.
Okay, before I go to second time speakers, just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody waving at me. Nope. Okay, Councillor Carpenter, second time on this item.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something. This is not eliminating consumer's choice. This is eliminating the gas company charging every consumer in Ontario for a development cost to put in gas lines to those projects. The developer will pay those costs. If the developer wants to provide consumer choice and wants to sell their product, of course, they're going to provide those services, same as they provide the rest of the services. This is just about who pays for it. Does the developer pay for it, or do you pay for it on your monthly gas bill? And currently, you're paying for it on your monthly gas bill. So that's what this is about. Do you want to continue paying for development costs on your gas bill, or do you want the developer to pay for it? That's the question here.
Councillor Van Tilborg, second speaking opportunity.
Well, ironically, I was actually very much in support of many of the things Councillor Martin said, as I have many doubts about a number of the clauses in the resolution. I could easily strike out heat pumps. I could strike out a lot of the prelude that's in this resolution. It's brought before to keep consistent with the resolutions passed in other cities. Sometimes you just think that's the easier way. But my doubts were the same, but I thought that would be open for debate. Regardless, it does come down to, and like I say, this isn't the hill I'm going to die on, but it is the one I do want explained. And I think just to explain it, Councillor Carpenter said it fairly clearly. It's just a matter of who pays and who benefits. And you can make any analogy to who should be paying or not paying. I personally don't have natural gas, so I don't even have a guy, I'm not, it's not one of the things I have to fight over. But when I look at this and I think, why are the people that have natural gas putting the bill for these large companies? And I just don't think that's right. I don't think that they should be the subsidizer of the developments. And you can disagree with that. And by disagreeing with that, you vote against this, or you can vote with it along with the ruling of the Ontario Energy Board. So I happen to be saying, let's go with the Ontario Energy Board as it's gone forward. And let's hope that sticks. But if you choose not to support the resolution and it go forward, that's up to you. But I will be supporting the choice of the Ontario Energy Board.
Okay, seeing no other speakers in the queue, Madam Clerk, can we call the vote on this item?
Item 7.1 carried on a recorded vote of 6-4. All those voting in favor are Counselor Sullivan, Celeste, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter. Those opposed, Counselors McCrary, Martin, Caputo, and Secoli.
Okay, item 7.2, Sustainable Communities Award. The mayor has left, so Councillor Samuel, I understand that you will move this resolution on his behalf, and please state your seconder.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Martin. Sustainable Communities Award. Whereas since 2001, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM's Sustainable Communities Awards have been celebrated the most innovative and environmental initiatives in Canadian cities and communities of all sizes. And whereas the winning projects leverage current and advanced technologies as well as best practices in sustainability and can be replicated across the country to help achieve national climate goals and increase quality of life for Canadians. And whereas one of 7 award categories is sustainable buildings, revitalizing community buildings, and whereas in 2019, the city of Brantford declared a climate emergency and committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions from corporate and community sources, and whereas corporate facilities encompass a majority of greenhouse gas emissions in the city of Brantford through use of natural gas, and whereas the city of Brantford developed a net zero building standard in October 2022, requiring all new corporate facilities to be built either net zero or net zero ready to reduce carbon emissions and help achieve the city's goal to be a net zero by 2050. And whereas the city of Brantford has recently completed the detailed design of a new police headquarters, which will be retrofit of existing facility and new addition. And whereas in April 2024, Brantford City Council approved the funding to construct the police headquarters to be fully net zero, incorporating solar panels and a stronger building envelope, making this Brantford's first fully net zero building initiative. And whereas the groundbreaking ceremony of the net zero police headquarters was held on May 17th, 2024, officially commemorating the beginning of the construction. And whereas the construction of the new net zero police headquarters is expected to be completed by 2026, and whereas this will be the first net zero police headquarters built in Ontario and will set an example for other municipalities for innovation and sustainability. Now, therefore, it be resolved that staff be directed to submit an application for FCM's Sustainable Communities Award for the Sustainable Buildings category, showcasing the net zero police headquarters project, and that city clerk be directed to forward a copy of this resolution to FCM to demonstrate city council support of the application for FCM's Sustainable Communities Award. And just to speak to that, of course, Mayor Davis played a huge role in having this come forward tonight. We've had quite a long night, so I'm going to keep my remarks very small, I guess. But I just wanted to say how proud I am of the work that we're doing with the police station headquarters, and I hope that everybody around the table is as well. And I hope this receives unanimous support tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, hopefully we see something from this. This isn't just a new build that's net zero. This is taking an existing facility and retrofitting it as well. So that gives us a bit of a unique project here to make an existing facility net zero as we add on to it. I think is a major step, and it caused us to increase the budget slightly a couple times. And I thank council for supporting those increases, because it got us into a position where ongoing operating costs will be lower because of the advantages of making the building much tighter and better insulated. So we get a better building and we get unfortunately a little bit higher price tag initially, but if we can get some money from this fund, then that'll offset that and get us back on track to where we need to be with it. So I fully support this as chair of the Police Services Board, and hopefully we'll see something good come from this. Thank you very much.
Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you. I'll support this as well. There's been good work done by the folks that are on the board and on the committee that's overseeing the project work. I wonder if I could ask staff if they could provide us with more information on the Sustainable Communities Awards. And if somebody could provide an explanation for the word sustainable that doesn't include the word sustain or sustainable. And that's just a request for you to provide that. I don't want an answer. Thank you.
Okay, so just to clarify, that question was just to staff to answer at a later point?
Yeah, if you could provide us with that, you know, for council night, that would be sufficient. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other speakers on this item, Madam Clerk, can you call the vote?
Item 7.2 carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councillor Sullivan, Slash McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, and Councillor Secoli.
Okay, moving on to item 8, notices of motion. We have 2 notices of motion on the agenda tonight. Councillor Carpenter, can you please read the title of your notice of motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's honoring Rick Stern by adding Stern to the approved street name list and honoring the family.
And Councillor Samwell, can you please read the title of your notice of motion?
Thank you. Heritage District consultation for Erie Avenue.
Okay, please note that the notice of motion deadline for the next Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration meeting is this Thursday at 9 a.m. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your patience.